I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Beverly City Council, Monday, March 21st, 7 p.m. Ms. Kent, would you please call the roll?
Bowen? Here. Crowley?
Here.
Feldman? Here. Hausman?
Here.
Rand?
Here.
Rotundo?
Here.
St. Hilaire?
Here.
Sweeney?
Here.
And Flowers.
Here. Councilor Feldman, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor Feldman. Thank you, everyone. So we do not have any resolutions, presentations, awards, and memorials specifically slated for this evening. So with that, we will go to comments by citizens. And our first citizen speaker who has signed up is Carol Rain. Carol, if you would go to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and then you have 3 to 5 minutes to address us.
Thank you. My name's Carol Rain. I live at 27 Pratt Avenue. So I'm going to read a land acknowledgement statement. There are many people to be thanked for this. I want to begin, Madam President, with you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
The original text was written for Montserrat College of Art by Lauren M. Spears of the Narragansett tribe, revised for the Beverly City Council by Thomas Green of the Massachusetts tribe. As we gather here in this space, we acknowledge and honor the original indigenous inhabitants of this land, the Namkeg and Pawtucket tribes of the Massachusetts tribal nation, which continues today through the membership of the Massachusetts tribe. We acknowledge the ancestral and continued connection to the land. We also recognize our obligations to the land, to better environmental care and stewardship, to which the indigenous people who care for have long called us. As we work toward diversity, equity, and inclusion, we acknowledge the importance of lifting up and inviting in many voices, including those of indigenous peoples, and of including those voices and perspectives in our discussion, in our decision-making, and in our actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rain. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Our second citizen speaker who signed up is Ms. Lorinda Visnick. Ms. Visnick, you're no stranger to that podium, but name and address for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers. Lorinda Visnick, 39 Middlebury Lane. I really, just making a habit of hanging out here in the back row and doing a lot of listening lately. And like last meeting, I didn't really plan on speaking until I found out that Abu gave his notice. And I wondered how many other people knew that Abu gave his notice. I wondered if anybody knows why, if anybody asked him if we did an exit interview. And what really came to my mind is the saying that what we do matters more than what we say. Our words matter. Our words absolutely have meaning. But what we do and how we live is greater than what we say. And so I wondered if Abu gave notice because he didn't feel that we as a community were totally living into the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and belonging. We weren't listening to his words. We weren't doing what he advised us to do. So we say that we care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. But what are we doing about it? What have we as a community done since we passed the resolution that said that racism is a public health emergency? I understand this podium is a one-way communication. To some extent, you can consider my questions rhetorical, but they're not rhetorical. Every single one of you needs to think about that And if you haven't talked to Abu and you haven't asked him why he left yet, understand he does not report to you. He's not like Mr. Perry. He's not your employee. But it's incredibly important because what we do is greater than what we say. Where's our equity audit? It's been done for a long time. Maybe that's part of the reason why he left, because we as a community haven't been brave enough to publish it. I respect every single one of you up there. I try to say that. I try to behave that way. Try. I don't always hit 100%. I'm human. I respect you for putting yourselves out there. I believe that every single one of you has some amount of goodness in you and you want to do the right thing. And this is an opportunity for you to do the right thing. If, in fact, you pass a land acknowledgement resolution, then what are we going to do about it? Hang it on the wall. But are we going to live it? Are we going to live into those values? Or is it just a little check mark so we can say, yeah, we did that? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Visnick. And one question that you note is about the equity audit, and so it'd be great for us, I think, to get an update from Councillor Feldman. Do you want to weigh in there? I know you're on that task force.
Yes, thank you. As for the equity audit, we did just have the final meeting to summarize the results. I unfortunately had a last-minute conflict, so I couldn't attend it, but I have the materials, and it is being prepared for sharing. It just took a little bit longer based on people's schedules and the amount of work that we were working on. So we will be having that for the public soon.
Thank you, Councillor Feldman. And I think then all of us, the 9 of us, being able to help amplify that and get it out to the community, I think speaks to the point that we heard. Thank you very much to our 2 citizen speakers for being here. I know I say this frequently, but one of the most important things that we do in this chamber is hear from members of the public, and we will hear from members of the public tonight in our public hearings. But everyone giving your time and sharing your voices is so important, and so thank you for making time for that. Speaking of that, we do have a little time to get some business done before our first public hearing, but I will just say again, for anyone who just joined us, that there are 3 sheets of paper on the desk in front of me. If you would like to sign up to speak at any one of the public hearings, 7:15 or 7:25 public hearings on budget transfers, or the 8 p.m. hearing on National Grid's proposed project, you can come to the front at any time during the meeting and sign up, and we will then be calling on people during that time. And I will say that again as we get to our public hearings. With that, let's try to get some of our business done. Let's go to acceptance of minutes of previous meetings. We have 2 sets of meetings to approve tonight, one from our regular city council meeting, March 7th, 2022, and one from our committee of the whole meeting, March 14th, 2022. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes, accept those minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 9-0, and both sets of minutes are approved. Ms. Kent, let's go to communications from His Honor the Mayor.
Order number 81. Dear Honorable City Council, I am hereby appoint, subject to your review and recommendation, Miss Amber Redmond of 55 Parramatta Road, Beverly, to serve on the Conservation Commission. Her term is to be effective until June 30th, 2024. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 82. Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby reappoint, subject to your review and recommendation, I believe it's just an appointment, not a reappointment, Danielle Spang of 16 Mulberry Street to serve on the Beverly Harbor Management Authority. Her term is to be effective until December 31st, 2024. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services, and Ms. Spang is here with us tonight, coincidentally. Thank you, Ms. Spang, for being here.
Order number 83, Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby reappoint, subject to your review and recommendation, Ms. Suzanne Lamont, 20 Porter Street, to serve on the Beverly Historic District Commission. Her term is to be effective from April 1st, 2022 until April 1st, 2025. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 84, Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby appoint, subject to your review and recommendation, Mr. Richard Cabot at 57 Sonning Road, Beverly, to serve on the Beverly Council on Aging. His term is to be effective until June 30th, 2024. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services, and Mr. Tabbitt is also here with us this evening. Thank you for being here, Mr. Tabbitt.
Order number 85, Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby appoint, subject to your review and recommendation, Ms. Hwang Soo Win, 32 Everson Road, Beverly, to serve on Human Rights Committee. Her term is to be effective from April 4th, 2022 until April 4th, 2025. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services.
Order number 86, Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby appoint, subject to your review and recommendation, the following residents to serve on the Permanent Building Commission. Mr. Bruce McDonald, D. Scott DeLay, Esquire, and Robin Luna Whitman. These terms will be effective until September 30th, 2024. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services.
Order number 87, Dear Honorable City Council, I respectfully request the City Council vote to accept a pedestrian easement agreement and easement at 50 Dunham Road, AKA 51 Dunham Ridge, for recreational and trail use purpose only. The easement will be located adjacent to the building Cummings refers to as 51 Dunham Ridge. As described in the attached letter from Jenna Prada, on behalf of the Conservation Commission, the requested easement is a condition of a September 12, 2014 order of conditions issued by the Commission. The easement will benefit residents and employees within the city of Beverly by providing additional access to the Norwood Pond trails behind Cummings property, Dunham Road Holdings. I support the Conservation Commission's recommendation. The easement request has been reviewed by the City Solicitor's Office and referred easement location has been reviewed and approved by the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, and the Planning Department. Please feel free to contact Ms. Nguyen, Darlene Nguyen, Planning Director, directly if you have any questions regarding this easement. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 88. Do you want to keep going? Dear Honorable City Council, enclosed, please find 3 orders seeking authorization for the city to proceed with a multi-site solar project with a solar development entity known as Kearsarge Beverly LLC. Number 1, order authorization lease of land and grant of easements abutted thereto to Kearsarge with proposed lease attached. Number 2, order authorizing solar power and services agreement with Kearsarge with proposed agreement attached. And order number 3, authorizing payment in lieu of taxes agreement with a Kearsarge related to personal property with the proposed pilot agreement attached. Kearsarge intends to install and operate solar photovoltaic systems on the following sites: Beverly High School at 100 Sawyer Road, Beverly Middle School at 502 Cabot Street, City Hall at 191 Cabot Street, Senior Center 90 Colon Street, and 10 and 11 Pond Street parking lots. Collectively, the size of the system is anticipated to be 4.3 megawatt DC. The proposed lease term is 20 years with a 5-year renewal term by mutual agreement. Combined, the lease and pilot payments over the 20-year term will generate revenue for the city in the amount of approximately $1,081,783. The city's anticipated electricity cost savings over the 20 years term is approximately $937,015. Representatives from Kearsarge have been invited to attend the March 21st meeting to make a presentation regarding this project. Appropriate members of city staff will also be here for your questions. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I understand that there are going to be representatives from Kearsarge here to present to us. We're going to pause here, though, because we have gotten to 7:15, which is the time for our first public hearing. And I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge that His Honor the Mayor is here with us. Thank you, Mayor Cahill, for being here. Members of the City Solicitor's Office, Ms. Oldmixon, Mr. Dole, and Solicitor Williams, and the Mayor's Constituent Services Director, Ronnie Jacobson, is also here with us. I think I got all the city staff who are here. So with that, we will open our 7:15 public hearing on order number 69.
Orders number 69, City of Beverly, ordered that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, March 21st, 2022, at 7:15 PM at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, live on BevCam, relative to the transfer of $10,500 into the Fire Department budget to fund costs associated with the recently agreed upon MOA between City of Beverly and the Fire Dispatch Union. And this was in the newspaper on March 11th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. I see, Mr. Dole, you are standing by the podium, but before I have you get started, sorry, I just wanted to say again for members of the public or for those who are watching before they head in for a later public hearing, again, just a reminder, if you would like to sign up to speak at any of the public hearings tonight, you can do so. You can get up at any time during the meeting, sign up on the papers in front of us on this desk, and then we'll be calling members of the public forward if you are signed up to speak. With that, Mr. Dole.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here if anyone has any questions about the MOA that's been executed with the dispatch unit. But I can, if I say some of the members of the council were here in November when you voted to approve the MOA that we executed with the firefighters union. It's substantially a similar compensation package with a few things that are unique to the dispatch unit, which we do for each bargaining unit has some unique little aspects above the salary package. So if anyone has any questions, I'm absolutely willing to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dole. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam President. One quick question. Do you have the FTE count for the number of employees in this specific union?
It's 5 members. It's right. It's a small unit.
Okay, good to know.
So.
Thank you. That's all from me, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Councilor Sweeney. Councilor Rotundo.
Question, it's sort of dispatch in general. Have we had any, since this money is allotted for the dispatch itself, have we come any closer to the police dispatch and fire coming together?
Well, an answer and a non-answer to that. Yeah, that's kind of getting off the agenda item about the MOA with this dispatch unit, but I can at least advise you that we are still in ongoing negotiations with, the only units that we're still in negotiations with are the 2 police unions. So we still are in negotiations about civilian dispatch at this time.
I guess it's more in regards that if it is to happen, will this MOA, will this carry over to the new dispatch?
So I think it's probably 2 contracts ago, if not 3. There was an agreement executed with this unit about envisioning what would happen in the event when we did transition to a combined police, fire, civilian dispatch model. So this unit theoretically would be succeeded by a different unit. Theoretically, it may make up these employees may carry over into that unit. Some of them may choose not to. They'll obviously be supplemented with some additional new hires, but it would be a different contract, different unit. So this wouldn't carry over. It'd be a situation they'd reconstitute themselves, whether that would be under the IAFF or it would be under a different union that would be up to their choice.
Okay, thank you. Thank
All
you,
set,
Madam
Councilor
President.
Rotundo?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Feldman.
Yes, thank you. So you were saying for the remainder of this fiscal year, there's still 2 outstanding union contracts?
It would be the collective bargaining agreements with all the city-side unions are all 3-year agreements, of which every unit was out of contract as of June 30th of last year. So we have executed the first step in finalizing negotiations with an individual bargaining unit is to execute a memorandum of agreement with the executive leadership of that union. And then that executive team goes back to their entire unit to ratify the terms of that MOA. Once the MOA is ratified, we come before the council to let you so you can see what the agreement is, the MOA. And then the actual CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, would be revised, edited to whether there's any change in any of the articles within there, additional new articles, deletion of some articles, and then that contract is actually executed between the mayor and the union itself. But this is the first step in that. The MOA is just the conclusion of the negotiation. So this, as we did with, as I mentioned, Councilor Feldman, you were here in the fall, we came to you with the MOA for the firefighters unit. We have also additionally executed MOAs with the librarians unit, the school custodians unit. Both are DPS employees, DPS foremen. Have wrapped up we've executed MOAs with all of them. They just haven't come to the council at this point because those are all done on different dates and schedules. So
Would you happen to know what the balance would be in this reserve then, after this transfer?
I would say, Mr. Ailes, I saw Mr. Ailes come in, our finance director. Mr. Ailes, would you like to
the
take?
individual with that information is approaching the microphone.
Spring into action.
So after this draw, there will be, it was originally $420,000 was budgeted there. There'll be $90,453 left after this transfer.
Okay, thank you.
All set, Counselor Felton?
Yes, I'm all set.
Thank you. Other questions from counselors on this item? Before I have our budget analyst, Mr. Perry, come up, are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this item? Mr. Perry, would you mind coming to the podium and just, if you have anything to say on this item, and counselors have any questions for you?
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everybody. I wrote to you last Friday a quick memo on this contract, as well as the other one you're going to have at 725. Couple of just quick highlights. In general, as the city solicitor's office indicated, it's pretty similar in nature to the other contracts that have already been ratified. The contract calls for an FY22 a 2.25% increase, in 23 the same 2.25% increase, and in 24 a 2.275% increase. Again, consistent with the other unions. There's a one-time payment of $500 for each bargaining unit, a $425 annual stipend for next generation 911 certification. They've added a new holiday. The Juneteenth holiday has been added to it. The union has agreed to withdraw all grievances and litigation. And finally, like all evergreen contracts, all prior provisions are carried forward. So everything's pretty consistent. It's my view that the city can afford this contract not only in current fiscal year of FY22, but also future years based on our financial forecasting. And Madam President, members of the council, it's my recommendation to you to adopt this proposal as recommended or as asked for by the mayor. I'm more than happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Are there any questions for Mr. Perry from the council? Councilor Bowen.
Thank you. And just a procedural question. Is the question in front of us just the transfer of funds from the reserve to cover a balance needed to implement this year, or is the question around the bargaining agreement overall?
That's a great question. No, the administration negotiates the bargaining agreements. However, you control the money. So technically, from a procedural point of view, what you're being asked tonight is to transfer funds. And there are sufficient funds, as Mr. Ailes indicated, to handle this. So you're not going to a deficit with it.
Thank you, Councilor Bowen. Any other questions on this issue for Mr. Perry?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close this public hearing on Order 69 and refer that matter back to the Committee on Finance and Property. With 2 minutes to spare. So I think because that does not give us time for the presentation on Order 88.
This is the last one, Mayor's.
Thank you. We'll return for that presentation on Order 88 and go to the next one. Okay. Yes? Yeah. Okay. Sure. Oh, thank you. Sorry. I would entertain a motion to accept a late file from His Honor the Mayor.
Madam President,
Councilor Rotundo.
may I use my hold on this particular order?
Councilor Rotundo, you would like to put your 2-week hold on this order?
Please. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll take that back up at our next meeting, which will be on April 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rotundo. With that, thank you. That takes up our 2 minutes. Sorry. With that, I will open our 7:25 public hearing. This is on order number 70, Ms. Kent.
Order number 70, the City of Beverly ordered that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, March 21st, 2022 at 7:25 PM at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, live on BevCam relative to the transfer of $113,500 into the various municipal department budgets to fund costs associated with recently settled contract between the city and the BMEA union. And this was published on March 11th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. Mr. Dole, are you also presenting a little on this one? I see that you're making your way back to the podium.
I anticipated a question based on the last question of Mr. Ailes, so I want to get the answer, save him the walk to the podium. So this is, the BMEA is the City Hall, effectively the City Hall Employees Union, which is a little bit deceiving because there's a lot of other employees in it within Council on Aging, et cetera, some of the offices that actually aren't in the building. But if you see, and based on the question before by Mr. Sweeney, this is a unit of, by my count, 69 employees. It might be 68 based on a recent departure. But the terms of the MOA that was executed with this unit have the same 3-year COLAs as what was just before you with the fire dispatch, and what was brought to the council last November with the firefighters union, and the same COLAs as the other unions that have executed MOAs. We have added, there are a few other units in the city that have a longevity payment at a 30-year step. We've added that. There's 3 members of the 68-member union that are at that 30-year mark. We did add Juneteenth and some additional language because this, unlike the public safety units, the City Hall employees, by state law, on a state holiday, the building has to be closed. So if there's a state holiday such as Juneteenth and it's not included in their contract, they wouldn't be paid for a forced day to stay home. So we did update some language in the holiday section and a slight modification of the bereavement leave. But this package, similar to fire dispatch, similar to firefighters, similar to DPS, again, is approximately an equivalent compensation package for this unit. And again, this would be a 3-year CBA effective as of backdated to July 1st of last year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dole. Are there any questions from councilors on this order number 70? Are there any, Councilor Bowen.
Well, just a similar question to Councilor Feldman's question on the last order, which is sort of where is the balance on?
So that's what I checked with Mr. Ailes. That number that he gave you, the 90,500 and change, includes both that 10,500 for the fire dispatch and this additional 113,500 for this unit.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this order number 70, the transfer of $113,500? With that, Mr. Perry, would you like to go to the podium and offer any insight you may have on this one?
Sure, Madam President. Consistent with the other contract, this is pretty similar in nature. The same percentage increases as the other one, 2.25% in 22, 2.25% in FY23, and 2.75% in FY24. It adds a $1,400 longevity payment for any bargaining member unit with 30 or more years service. Adds the holiday, as City Solicitor indicated. There's some additional relatives added to the bereavement clause that allows, in bereavement situations, a one-time retention payment of $500. And again, similar to the other contract, all grievances, litigation withdrawn, and all prior provisions are carried forward. Again, like the other one, it's my opinion based on our financial forecasting. I believe we can afford this not only in this fiscal year and in subsequent fiscal years for the 3-year contract. Madam President, it's my recommendation that the council approve the transfer as requested.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Are there any questions for Mr. Perry? Councilor Houseman.
Yes, Mr. Perry, I just want to follow up on Councilor Bowen's question. I wasn't quite sure I understood your answer. These funds are funds that will simply allow the memorandum of agreement to be complied with. These are not funds that are spread out as part of the salaries for these employees over the course of the term of the contracts. Is that right?
It's only for this fiscal year. The transfers of these fiscal years, when the mayor and the finance director comes before you next June, they will add appropriate funding to cover the FY23 budget. As you, I'm sure, recall, we appropriated approximately appropriated $420,000 for collective bargaining purposes, and out of that pot of money, we are now withdrawing it out of there and putting it there to cover the costs associated with this agreement.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies my question.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Houseman. Any other questions for Mr. Perry?
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll close this public hearing on order number 70, refer that back to the Committee on Finance and Property. And let's pick back up, Order 88 is still in the full council with us for a presentation, and
I think that went back to finance.
the one we just did? Sorry, did I misspeak? Finance and Property.
Yeah, did-
What did I say?
I thought you said public services. I could be wrong.
Whatever I said, it should go to Finance and Property. Can anyone confirm that's what I said? You
did.
Oh,
I wrote down wrong.
Yeah, we got this.
thank goodness.
Yeah, I wrote paying attention.
Thank you. I was gonna say, I appreciate it, Ms. Kent, because it's keeping me on my toes. So I would like to invite, I see that Ms. Keefe is here with us and representatives from Kearsarge. And so this might be a good time for us to have this presentation on Order 88 so that we can then continue through our agenda. Before they begin, I know more folks are coming in and joining us as we go. We're getting closer to the 8 o'clock hearing, so I just wanted to mention again, and I'm sorry if you've heard me say this, I did promise I would be saying it a lot. If you would like to sign up to speak at the public hearing at 8 o'clock, the piece of paper on the desk in front of me, you can now disregard the 2 for 7:15, 7:25. You can come up at any time during the meeting and add your name to that list, and then we'll be taking comments from the public when we come to that portion of the meeting. So we'll repeat that again when we get closer. Feel free to tell your friends and neighbors too as they come in. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Madam President, it's good to see you. It's really good to see everybody. We're excited to be here tonight with this proposal on the multi-site solar arrays. As you know, we RFP'd this several years ago with a goal of trying to host as much solar as we could as a community. We all recognize that the electrification of our transportation and our building sectors as a way to help drive our greenhouse gas emissions down and meet our climate action goals requires that power grid be clean and renewable. So we want as a community to do as much as we can to host clean and renewable energy on our properties. As you know, in a separate project last year, we brought online just under 5 megawatts at the old landfill along 128 northbound. This is a multi-site project. Dan will give you the details. Dan Voss is our partner at Kearsarge. Kearsarge responded to our RFP, and we selected them. We've been working with them now for, I think, about 4 years. And so all I want to say beyond that is Ms. Williams, Mr. Ailes, Ms. Keefe, and I are all here together with Dan to answer questions that you may have after Dan presents. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam President. Let me just take off this mask while I speak. So great to be back. It's been a while. As Mayor was pointing out, the program that we've been working on with the city for 3 or so years now involves 6 sites around the city, represented on the map up here. But in short, it's the 2 schools, middle school and high school. It's this building, and it's the senior centre and the car park at 1011 Pond in the centre of town. And all told, we're looking at about 4.3 megawatts DC worth of solar for the benefit of Beverly once this is built. Let me give you a little bit of a background, and I won't take up too much time because I want you guys to get to questions. Okay, that's it. There we go. Okay, so we were awarded the RFP for the project in 2019. 2019 was spent focusing on the design process, so liaising with the school committee, with the public services, and generating what's called an interconnection services agreement and applying to National Grid. So that's the key step in all of these processes, getting the approval of the utility to actually connect the solar. For 2020, the majority of that year was spent working with National Grid on the design of these systems, getting to a point where we had a project that would work with the utility. At the same time, we started permitting in 2020. Roll on to 2021, it's a little bit of the same story. We spent quite a lot of time that year refining the interconnection of these systems to the utility. and in fact, working with the utility to significantly reduce cost and reduce timeline. We went from some 1.5 million in interconnection costs down to around about $400,000, working with and in partnership with National Grid. In 2021, we completed the permitting process. As we rolled into 2022, basically started the march toward construction. So this year, in the last 3 months, we've signed the Interconnection Services Agreement, which is a critical step in the process of construction. We have the qualification certificates from the DOER, so we have the incentives for these projects all locked in. We've completed the engineering studies to validate that the buildings can take the solar and that the car parks can take the solar. And we have the lease and SPSA drafted, reviewed by council, and the lease has been approved by the school committee back in February. So tonight, I wanted to give you a quick taste of the layouts. It's been a while since you've probably seen them. Give you a quick update on the schedule. And then I would turn to Mr. Ailes and Ms. Williams to walk through the specifics of the SPSA and the lease, and we can talk briefly about next steps, move on to questions. So make sure this works. There we go. So the first site is the high school at 100 Sawyer. This is a system that's about 2.6 megawatts in size. It's 2 large canopies over the car park, or over the parking lot. I'll call it a car park. I'll keep on calling it a car park, but I mean parking lot. And in addition to that, a ground mount back where the historic Green Energy Park is sitting. So we've been working with the team to look at how we preserve the historic continuity of Green Energy Park. And you can see up on the chart here, we've put a little box around one part of the array that we're going to be keeping in operation. And the balance of it will be replaced with modern panels, modern racking, and will significantly increase the production from that system. The canopies are going to be on a frame. You can see a little representation of the canopy frame there. It's called a long span canopy. It'll sit at about 14 feet, 13 and a half feet at its lowest edge, so that all the city vehicles can get underneath there. It's going to have water management, so that in rain or snow events, there'll be a guttering system that'll catch any melt or rainfall and move it to the ground. So that is the high school. The high school is also going to have a battery. So it's a 1.7 megawatt battery energy storage system that will be located along the sort of western access road, if you like. That'll interface with the ground mount and the canopy to store the solar energy and dispatch it when it's needed. Moving to 502 Cabot, the middle school. It's a little bit smaller, 1.16 megawatts. It's almost perfectly split between a rooftop array that you can see on top of the building and a canopy to the south of the school. Once again, it's called a long span canopy. It'll have water management. It'll have the same height clearances so that city vehicles can move freely. We've worked with the fire department to ensure adequate access to the back of the building, ensure that equipment can rotate, raise ladders. And we've gotten, obviously, as I noted, approvals from planning and from the Conservation Commission. There is some wetland areas here on the west. We're totally outside of those. And so this is a project that did have a battery energy storage system, but it's been removed from the current scope. And so that's what the little red box up in the top left is. So if you recall the permitting process we went through, we did have a battery for this system, but it's being deferred at this point. 10 and 11 Pond here in the middle of the city. We're going to pop in on 11 Pond. Once again, what's called a garage style, a long span canopy that will span the entire car park. I've shown you photos of those already. I won't go into too much description other than to say, once again, has sufficient height and sufficient clearance to ensure that fire vehicles can get down to that lower car park. We worked with the fire department on that. And sufficient clearance to ensure that fire vehicles can get around the east and turn around the canopies to access cars in the back. I'll move on. Well, what I might point out is that there is also what's called a T canopy in 10 ponds. So the long span canopy, if you think of 4 posts with the canopy supported by the structure, a T canopy is basically a series of posts down the middle with the solar, sitting on top like a T. So the 10 pond car park has what's called a T canopy that just runs down that little hill. Finally, this building up on top, we're going to pop in what's called a ballasted solar system. It's a little one, about 29 kilowatts. We're going to try and get a little bit more out of that, but at this stage, 29 kilowatts. And then at the senior centre, it's called a flush mount array. So it's basically going to be attached, just like you'd see on houses around the city. It's going to be attached to the shingle roof there, nice and flush. That's 35 kilowatts DC. Those 2 systems are going to actually be behind the meters. So they're going to tie into the buildings behind the utility meters. So when those buildings operate, they're going to be using solar first and then taking energy from the grid. So that's a quick overview of the systems themselves, just a little refresher. In terms of program, the focus for us with this program is making sure that we minimise disruption with the schools and facilities and with the downtown parking. And in terms of the critical path, it's really 502 Cabot, and so our schedule is designed to ensure that as much of the construction at 502 Cabot is done across the summer so that it does not impact in school periods. So we'll be starting probably in May, if all goes to plan, with some work at the high school on the ground mount. But come the end of school in June at 502 Cabot, then we'll start installing that canopy system at 502 Cabot, and that will then set the schedule for the rest of the program. So I think that's, in terms of schedule, the most important takeaway on this slide, and that is that we're endeavouring to do as much as possible at 502 Cabot during that vacation period so that there's no impact on the school parking when the school comes back. All right. I can quickly run through this, but I think we'll get to the questions, and when you have the questions, Stephanie and Brian are probably the 2 best people to answer it. But as I mentioned, in total it's 4.3 megawatts. There are basically 3 agreements related to the project. There's a lease, there's a power purchase agreement, an SPSA, and then there's a pilot agreement. The lease basically addresses the system layouts, what we've just walked through. It addresses the construction access, what we have to do to come on site, what we have to do during the construction period. It allows for building maintenance and site maintenance during operations. Defines things like snow removal responsibility, and it also has provisions for early termination. If for whatever reason the systems needed to be removed, there are provisions in the lease to deal with that. The SPSA basically defines the energy volumes that are going to be generated and the saving the city's going to get from the energy. Okay. The pilot then deals with, obviously, the payments in lieu of taxes. So a review of these agreements has been completed by Legal, Finance, and the Facilities Group. And as I said, I'll let Stephanie and Brian step in to answer questions on those. I can help out. The recommendation tonight is with consideration of the document and what we've presented, to approve the lease and the SPSA and pilot so this project can move forward into construction. Our focus is really getting the work going so we can start in June and ensure that there's no disruption at Cabot. And that's the purpose of this meeting, to get that process rolling. This table, I think you all have in your pack. It summarises the total benefits to the city. It's in nominal dollars. It's just over $2 million over 20 years, split between a nominal lease payment, the pilot payment, and the energy savings itself. And then finally, next steps. Well, the current stage is tonight. We're here to consider these agreements. But with approval by the City Council, and we're working now on this basis, but with approval by the City Council, we would look to submit building permit applications in mid-April. We've started working on them now, so we're developing them up. We'll be reviewing those with the city departments, but we would aim to submit those in April, commence pre-construction activities in May, and then full construction in June. So I think with that, I'll pause and take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from city councilors at this time? Councilor St. Hilaire.
I just had a quick question on the relationship between the timing on this and the City Hall rehab project. Is there any interplay there?
I think if you ask Commissioner Collins, the City Hall roof was redone, the HVAC system was redone, all the pointing and the brickwork was redone in the last handful of years. I don't think we anticipate the work that we'll be doing internal here on the old police station to have an impact that would necessitate any, any pulling off of the panels once they're put in. That was kind of what your question?
Yeah, I know we just approved a feasibility study, and I just wanted to make sure that that was being thought of.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll set Councilor St. Hilaire.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Houseman.
Yeah, I just have a quick question regarding the payments schedule. The handout we got refers to a $2,019,054 estimated benefit. The schedule attached to, if you'll bear with me a moment. Afraid my desk is a little small for this work. Here it is. The schedule attached to the pilot looks like half of that, $1,081,000. Could you, $1,081,783. Could you explain the relationship of the payments between the amount that comes in through the pilot on one hand and the aggregate economic benefit to the city that's shown on this, that's roughly twice that?
Yeah, so for clarification, as Dan mentioned earlier, there are three components that you have before you: a lease, the I keep calling it a PPA, but the SPSA, and then there's also the pilot payment. The aggregate chart that you said that shows the 2 million is all of the values combined. Okay, the pilot chart is just the pilot piece of it.
So the pilot is half of it?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly. Could you detail the breakdown of the other half and where they fit into these documents?
So the two largest components are the pilot payment for the personal property, which is the array, basically. And then the next largest piece, which would make up the lion's share of the agreement, has to do with the power purchasing agreement. So as this system generates electricity and pushes it back into the grid, the utility companies buy that energy, and we in turn buy the value of that energy from Kearsarge at a discounted rate. And we use those credits to pay our utility bills. It's similar to like a Groupon, if you've ever used a Groupon. So we buy about $100,000 worth of energy. Costs us about $100,000. We probably are able to pay $120,000 worth of bills with it, or something like that.
So the electricity supplied to the grid generates, in effect, credits to the city, which the city then can apply towards its cost for buying energy?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And that is an estimated amount based upon the amount of kilowatts that are actually generated from the system.
Yep.
So that dollar amount has everything to do with the calculation around the capacity, the specifications of these panels, all of them, to generate a certain amount. Over time, the panels become less efficient, as I understand. So does this take into account, that portion of it take into account the sort of the depreciation and inefficiency of the panels over time?
It does. That's why on the schedule that you have before you, in the latter years, there's less of the value derived through that SPSA.
I noticed that on the pilot payment, but I didn't see, so I did not print out the entire set of all of the documents. So is there another document that has the portion that we're talking about printed out? I guess you're pointing out to one, so it's.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
I'm scrolling through the computer.
The energy pay, see, it's broken down.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for it in the document, not in the brochure that tells us what we get.
So you have a look at in the exhibits
Yeah,
It has a generation schedule.
yeah.
And you'll see in the generation schedule,
Dan, you should speak into the microphone.
oh, sorry.
There's only one left to speak, right?
So in the back of the lease, in the back of the SPSA, there's a generation table, and you'll see the generation decreasing over time, and that reflects the degradation in the system. And so that shows you that the basis for the revenue that's described in this table is reducing over time by 0.5% per year.
That's what's labeled here as the production schedule?
That's right. And you'll see also that there's an 80%, 100%, and then 115%. The SPSA has a guaranteed floor at 80%. So if everything went pear-shaped, if we get down to an 80% level, then we're on the hook to reimburse you. That's right, below that level. So we've never seen that with our systems, and it would be, yeah, it's a pretty safe bet for us because we generally hit our targets. But you'll see the total generation decreasing over time, and then you have the security of having a floor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Houseman. Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam President. 2 questions, and these are probably more directed to Bryant, yourself, and other relevant city employees. First, just so I'm understanding this correctly, the upfront costs of actually installing the infrastructure and any other related costs are going to be borne entirely by Kearsarge, and nothing should be expected to be borne by the city.
That's right, yes. Yep.
Thank you. And then following up with that, I know the timelines, particularly with the schools, make sense for times of lower activity, but with 10 and 11 Pond Street, the 2 parking lots there, do we have a plan for the potential need to free up capacity somewhere else in the city to provide for, I would assume that while construction's going on, a lot of those spaces will be unavailable.
Yeah, so we're working with, and over the next many weeks, we'll be working with Mike Collins and the team just to make sure that there's a logistics plan for that parking.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Are there other questions from Councillor Rotundo?
Just one quick follow-up on Council Sweeney's with regards to the pond parking lot. Is there a consideration that there'll be a net loss of parking spaces with the various types of steel going into the ground or whatever's holding up the canopy? Do we know what the net loss of parking spaces will be?
Yeah, so if we have a look at that little map up there. Oh, sorry. So you may not be able to see it clearly, but the little dots are the foundations on this map. And on the 10 pond lot, they're all placed in the center line. So the installation of the foundations won't take up any parking. At 11 pond, you'll see that the only, to the left, the foundations are on the stripes. They're not on the center line because of the foundation walls, but they'll sit adjacent to the foundation walls in the center and adjacent to the tops of the stripes for the left-hand side. You can park alongside those. Those are 36-inch.
There'll be no loss of parking then? Perfect.
No.
Thank you.
I'll set Councillor
Yes,
Rotundo.
thank you.
Councillor Bowen, I saw your hand.
Thank you. So a couple of quick questions. One, to follow up on the question about this building, related question on the Council on Aging building and whether any upgrades to the HVAC system there would impact the roof. And then a follow-up question, but I don't know if someone has a response on that first.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ailes. Yeah. Mr. Mayor, before you jump in and answer that question for Councillor Bowen, since we have so many people joining us, I just wanted to take a moment just to say that we're coming up to our 8 o'clock public hearing. If you are just joining us, if you would like to sign up to speak as part of that public hearing, there are papers on the desk in front of me. You can come up at any time and sign up. When we get to the public comment, we will be taking comments from the public in order that you've signed up, and you can do that at any point. So if the spirit moves you in a little while, you can still get up and do that. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, please.
No, that's good. So to answer your question, the senior center, there'll be no need to remove anything once in there.
Okay, great. And then my other question is just around the payment in lieu of taxes. Just curious more of the sort of process and thinking there, since the schedule is laid out.
Bills and
but-
Mr. Voss.
Yeah. Because I know those are complicated calculations for any kind of property, but particularly in this case, just curious how that is arrived at.
Yeah, so we have a Board of Assessors here, as you're all aware. They're ultimately responsible for setting the tax bills based on the tax rate, based on valuations. This agreement sets certainty into the kind of economics of the deal so that Kearsarge is able to put together a package, get the financing they need, and do what they need to do to get the deal off the ground. From our perspective, our Board of Assessors review the capacity of the sites, take a look at other similar projects, and make judgment calls on future values, and then we apply the expected tax rate to that, and that's how we arrive at the personal property pilot in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowen. Are there any other questions from councillors? Councillor Houseman.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on my question about the credits. The credits are based upon the SMART program, is that right?
Yes.
Is the value of those credits locked in regardless of how the SMART program may change over time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So what we did in our proposal with the city was we locked in the saving at a penny per kilowatt. So that guarantees that revenue stream regardless of what happens in the SMART program or to the value of energy. So basically you're guaranteed to save that penny into perpetuity on every kilowatt hour that's generated.
So even if the SMART program by legislation is essentially gone, superseded by some other program and other legislation,
so
the value of these credits will be, you will be able to determine the value of these credits over time, over the 20-year span.
Right. And the SMART program is only it's short dated at 20 years. So for instance, beyond that period, you'll still be receiving that 1 penny discount on the energy value.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Rand.
Thank you. Is there time for question?
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, the answer might take longer than 2 minutes.
If that happens, we'll pause this and
Thank you.
return.
Okay, so I'll give you my questions and you can tackle them as you wish. I'm curious about the middle school, the battery that's no longer part of the project. Just wondering what curbed that decision. And I'm also curious if there was consideration given to a change in one of the parking lots. Not that there's anything on the books, but I'm wondering if within the 20 years, there's a redesign of one of the Pond Street parking lots. Where does that put the array or the canopy?
Sure. So the battery storage at the middle school, it was simply a decision based on availability of the battery of the type and size that we had intended to use. And so that's been removed from the project at this point, and so we'll build it without it. There has been discussion of expansion of the electric vehicle charging fleet, etc. So that's in the future, but for now, we removed the battery for reasons of supply, so we didn't hold up the balance of the project. And then in terms of 10 and 11 Pond, there's facility within the agreement to allow for removal of elements of the system if needed. But the reason unless there was a full redevelopment of the car park, the reason we built it at 14 feet was to allow vehicles to operate underneath it. So many of the resurfacing those issues can be done underneath it without disturbing it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rand. Any last question? All right, thank you very much. Was there a question down there?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'm going to refer orders 88, 88A, and 88B to the Committee on Legal Affairs, and further conversation can certainly happen there as well. Thank you very much for being here with us and for presenting. And this does bring us to 8 o'clock. So, oh, sorry.
Just for Mr. Voss's edification, will that subcommittee be meeting later tonight during the confines of the meeting, or no? Should he stick around?
Yes, we will break for committee later this evening. Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor. With that, I will call to order our 8 o'clock public hearing on Order 65.
Order number 65, City of Beverly, order that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, March 21st, 2022, at 8 p.m. at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, live stream on BevCam relative to the petition of the New England Power Company for an electric transmission line franchise, AKA grant of location, in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 166, Section 21-22. This is published in the paper on Friday, March 11th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. Before we jump into this hearing, a few, I think, important items, both for members of the public who are here with us tonight and for anybody who may be joining us on BevCam. I know public hearings and the hearings that happen in the context of a public meeting, a regular public meeting, can be sort of mystifying in some ways, and so I just wanted to sort of lay out some of how this will work tonight. First, a reminder, especially for people who just may have joined us, this is a public hearing. That means we will be taking public comment. If you would like to sign up to comment during the public hearing, there is now remaining one piece of paper, and you can sign your name there, and we will be taking public comment in order that you're signed up. As I said, you can get up at any point. You can get up as we're beginning the public hearing, as you're listening. I think my fellow councilors agree that one of the most important things that we do is hear from members of the public, and so you don't have to feel that you know right this instant if you want to sign up, but that is what will happen.
Can you confirm that there will be a second opportunity for people to speak if they want to? So if they prefer not to speak tonight, that they'll have another opportunity to speak?
Yes. You read my mind as to where I was going next. And, there is a license for a fortune teller later this evening. And so, Ms. Fogerty, you may want to consider taking that up as well. So yes, Ms. Fogerty makes an excellent point. Not all public hearings can be resolved in one evening. You may be familiar with many that are, and you saw two that were much quicker this evening. This is a big topic with lots of conversation to be had. I know my fellow councilors and I just forwarded from the city clerk several documents that we had requested from National Grid that came in late this afternoon, and so we'll want time to review those. We also will want time to bring in other experts, perhaps the city's EMF consultant, constructability expert, the engineers. So we will have more opportunity both to ask questions of National Grid representatives and for the public to speak. So yes, I do not anticipate closing this public hearing tonight. I actually anticipate continuing it to our April 4th meeting at 8 p.m. And so if members of the public are not here tonight or want to listen tonight and speak next time, that's an absolutely valid point. With that, I do also just want to take a moment and recognize that our State Senator Joan Lovely and our State Representative Jerry Paracella are here with us this evening as well. Thank you very much for being here with us. And there was one other thing I was going to say. I guess not. Yes, there was. What I would like to do, given that we are going to be continuing this hearing so that we really do have time to digest and get all the information, what I always think is probably most frustrating for members of the public is to attend something where it feels like you listen for a very long time and then it gets really late and you have to either go home for childcare or work tomorrow, whatever it is, and you didn't get a chance to speak. So what I would like to do is I will open by inviting National Grid to begin by presenting a little bit about the project to us. At that point, I'll open the floor for councilors to ask questions. And councilors, I'd like to hold us to about 30 to 40 minutes because this will not be our only opportunity to ask questions. And I do want to prioritize making sure we get to members of the public. Yes, thank you, Councilor Rotundo. And when we get to the public comment portion, Councilor Rotundo will be helping to keep time for us, just so that we make sure that everyone does get a chance to speak. And so he will be holding us to about 3 minutes per speaker, and he'll use his phone so that you can hear that when it's time for you to wrap up. That was probably enough from me to get started. So with that, I would like to invite representatives from National Grid who are here if you'd like to begin with some opening remarks.
Hi, good evening, Madam President, and members of the council. My name is Mark Riley. I'm Assistant General Counsel at National Grid. And we do want to move to Q&A. We know there's a lot of questions. And I have a team, project team with me, and I want to just do some quick introductions. As I was sitting there, to my right was Tim O'Leary, who's the project manager. To his right is Dr. William Bailey, who's EMF. He supervised the preparation of the EMF report. Daniela Retz is a stakeholder specialist. Will Langhoff works for Hilltop Publications, helps to handle outreach. Faith Hassel is our community and customer liaison. Sanan Ashkuri is an underground transmission engineer. And Dave Arthur also manages project management group. So with that, as you know, the Massachusetts Energy Facility Siting Board approved this project in October. In their decision, they made several findings, among which was that the current cable is obsolete, deteriorated, and in their language, the need to replace it had become acute. At the time, there was an outage on what we call the N192 line, the existing cable. Subsequently, that they're finding that the need was acute has only been reinforced because we had a subsequent outage. So it reinforced the urgency of our need to replace this cable for reliability purposes. Despite that urgency, at the request of the city, we did delay the filing of this petition it's now been about 4 months, while the city retained experts to look at the MBTA right-of-way alternative, as well as to do a peer review of our EMF report. As we understand it, although we weren't provided copies of those reports, we understand that their conclusions were consistent with ours, that the MBTA right-of-way was not a feasible route. And I know there's been a lot of discussion on that, and that the EMF report that we submitted was reliable in showing that the anticipated magnetic field levels were just a fraction of what the guidelines that have been established for public exposure by entities like the WHO. So we obviously got your request for supplemental materials. We received that on Thursday. We provided, as best we could, a mostly complete response. There are a few items that we're still working on, and as you saw in my letter, there are other items that we didn't provide because of confidentiality concerns, and those relate to things like archaeology reports. Those are customarily considered confidential because they don't want to disclose the locations of artifacts and the like. There may be a way around that. We're looking into that, how to provide that. I think those have already been provided actually to the Historic Commission folks, so you can probably get it that way. Nonetheless, we think that whatever outstanding items there may be shouldn't hold back the council from acting on our petition, because those things, which we're happy to continue to provide, don't really affect the permanent location of the cable in the street, or whether that permanent location would, in the language of the statute, incommode the public's use of the public way, which is the charge of this council to review. So with that, I did want to, the project manager, Tim O'Leary, just wanted to make some brief remarks, and then we can open it up to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Apologize for my voice. I just ended a little bit of a brief head cold. I want to thank everyone. It's not very unusual. I'd rather just be speaking to everybody up in front, but I understand the requirements of this. But really want to thank everyone here, the city council, the representatives, the state senator, all the residents who opposed this, project, the residents who do not oppose this project. It's admirable to see the passion in the community. I wear this out of respect for my company, and I also wear this as much as I can, says National Grid on it, wherever I am in the city, because then people feel okay to approach me with questions, whether it's regarding this project or anything else that might be going on in the city. So in the means of that, I'll be short so we can get the questions and answers. I've fielded a lot of questions, fielded a lot of comments, and I appreciate all of them, right? They come from your heart, they come from your passion, and it's a beautiful thing. But one of the things that the continuing theme of that is around some of the wording around the replacement of the cable, the relocation of the cable, the redundancy of the cable, right? All powerful words that mean a lot of different things. And yes, we are requesting to replace the cable. We're requesting to replace it in a location that's more feasible. Is the cable redundant? Absolutely. You cannot have an infrastructure of an electric system based for Beverly or any of the other communities that's surrounding it on one cable. You absolutely have to. The whole system is balanced with two cables. We are here at a critical stage. A lot of folks ask me, when do you want to start? You don't want to know my answer, because it's today. We put this on hold for 4 months out of respect for the mayor, the city council, and everyone else who's had interest in this. They wanted due diligence, and I appreciate them looking into that. We're at a critical stage to replace this cable. Other than that, I just really want to stress the fact that we appreciate the comments, and we can turn it back to you, Madam President, for questions.
Thank you very much. Members of the City Council, are there questions that you have at this juncture in the public hearing for National Grid? Councilor Houseman.
Yeah, I just primarily want to allow the general public to have most of the time to speak, because we've had an awful lot of time and we'll have more time to speak. I just have one question for Mr. Riley. I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment. You made reference to the letter that you sent to the council, which I got this afternoon. It's 12 pages long, single space. And just to be clear, because perhaps it's not self-evident, I've had constituents that surprise me, to make sure that you understand that the counselors have full-time jobs when we're not city councilors. This is a part-time job for us. We have no staff specifically. We have the city clerk who helps us with administrative matters, but we have no staff. And it's important for all of us, I'll speak only for myself, but to exercise due diligence in understanding and reviewing the documents. We got from the city clerk this afternoon, I think I counted something like 17 documents from National Grid. The first one I opened up was 56 pages long, and I had deadlines at my office that I had to meet. So in terms of the time frame, I respect that you said, you've delayed for 4 months, and you wish to proceed immediately, but I would just suggest that for the point of view of the city council to do its job, that it will take us some time to do what would be appropriate due diligence in reviewing the documents as best we can with the resources, both time and staffing, which don't exist really, that we have. So with that, I'll just turn it over to the general public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Houseman. I did see Councilor Bowen's hand as well.
Thank you. And mine's a short comment, because I also want to hear from folks in the room. But just because it was mentioned in that opening statement, our request for more information about archaeological monitoring plans and reporting, I just wanted to point out to the folks that were here at the beginning of the meeting, the commitment that you heard from our citizen comment period to acknowledge and respect the land that we're on and the people who lived here before colonization as well. And you also heard public comment asking us to put that into action and take that seriously. And so I know there is a legal requirement that National Grid have a plan in place, and that if there are remains discovered along the route, that there is monitoring for that and careful attention paid. And while a report from the archaeological firm about what and where those might be may be proprietary, I think it's fair for us as a community in making these commitments to our larger community to hear about what your plans are to take the same care that we expect. So that's where that question was coming from and what we're looking for. So I just wanted to clarify since that came up in the opening statement.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowen. I don't know if anyone wants to elaborate on what Councillor Bowen is asking about.
With regard to the archaeological report, again, like I said, we'll, I think, try and figure out a way to get that to you. There are confidentiality concerns. I don't know what the mechanism is, and maybe it's a discussion with the city solicitor and PAL, but we'll figure that out. Certainly, we recognize it's an important issue, and in fact, during our route selection process, we specifically avoided, I think it was Abbott Street or something like that, because there was a known site. So we took that off the table and routed around that. So we've been on top of that issue from the beginning. With respect to Councilman Hausman's comment, like I said in the letter, I don't think a lot of the information, which we're happy to provide, we're happy to have the discussion, pertains to the job you have today to grant a location in the street. That was the nature of my comment. We're happy to come back as much as you want, but we would like to move to a decision so we can, as Tim said, begin construction.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from councilors at this point? Estelle. Oh, Councilor Rand.
It's okay.
Sorry,
I
I
have a first name, so it's totally fine.
I just looked over quickly and thought it was Estelle.
I think I have a question that I'd like to ask, because I've received a few questions from constituents that sort of are along the same lines. Most of my questions from constituents I'd like to hold because they may be asked by some of the members of the public that are here tonight. But something that keeps coming up is sort of the question or suggestion that to sort of ask for things in exchange for the huge inconvenience that this gigantic construction project will be. And I want to confirm, perhaps with our city solicitor, that there is a limit to that sort of exchange and request legally. And so I think I'd like to clarify that for the council and for the public before moving forward. So for example, we couldn't say, could you please fix the fence along this route that's public property?
Is there anyone who would like to respond to Councilor Rand's question? Thank you. And I should have said this earlier, but for anyone who's speaking tonight, if you could come to the podium, just even if we know you, just state your name and address if you're a resident, or name and connection to the hearing, and that will be helpful not only to those of us in the room, but to everyone watching us on BevCam. That microphone will pick up for BevCam.
Good evening. My name is Ray Miaris, and our firm has been retained as special counsel to the City Council for the purpose of this hearing. So the question is, what are the limits of what you can ask for? And my response is that your standard of review is what will incommode the public. We had a conversation already about what that word means, but anything that you believe is relevant to that question is something that you can ask for. And if there are reasons that the company does not wish to provide that information, or not in the form that you want, we should hear those reasons and consider them, and then we'll decide what the significance of those objections may be.
Yes, please. I guess, Mr. Miaris, you may not want to go too far from the beginning. Maybe back.
It was a simple clarification that it's the statute says incommode not the public, but the public's use of the public way. So it's limited to what happens in the streets. So fixing a fence, I would argue, is not one of those things, to use your example.
Thank you. Counselor Rand, any follow-up? Any other questions or comments from counselors at this time? With that, let's go to public comment. Ms. Kent did grab the piece of paper just so that we could see who was signed up already. That does not mean that you cannot speak at this time, so we will go through the list that I have here. And then I will just continue to ask if there are other members of the public who would like to speak. Just raise your hand and I will acknowledge you. As I said, the intent here is really to, and in my view, in any public hearing, to prioritize voices of the public. And so the intent is not to create a barrier for you being able to speak, but to really invite that. So don't feel that if you didn't get up yet to put your name down, you are not able to. And when you come up to speak, if you could, this is for everyone, just make sure to state your name and address for the record. That will be helpful again for BevCam and also for Ms. Dixon, our Assistant City Clerk, who's taking the minutes for this meeting. So we'll begin. I just wanted to ask, Mr. Hops, did you want to speak on this issue?
No, it was the previous issue.
I'm sorry that we missed you, Mr. Hops. I apologize about that. So with that, Mr. Younger, would you like to come up to the podium? Yes, please. And I know I just gave away your name, but if you would restate your name and address.
Sure. My name is Jim Younger, and I live at 32 Buttman Street. And thank you, Councilor Flowers, and thank you, council members, but specifically Councilor Flowers, for the way you've been handling the meeting so far. And one, I guess I just wanted to make sure that the whatever letter National Grid produced this afternoon gets out to wherever it goes, that it's posted in a place where the general public can see it and see it in a timely manner. This has been a fatally flawed process from start to end, sorry. And on the matter of archaeology, with all due respect to the lawyer for National Grid, I don't know anything about Cabot Street, but I do know that there is a cemetery behind and next to City Hall and the Central Firehouse. And I believe the route that is being used will still go right by that cemetery. And if somebody wants to confirm that for me, maybe somebody in the project team from National Grid could tell us that actually is going by an archaeological significant site. You don't have to do that now, but it would be good to know. So to the council, you are about to let National Grid take the path of least resistance. Rather than do what is right, National Grid has chosen to bully Beverly into a disruptive path that's going to last for many years. This is not a new tactic. This is the National Grid playbook. National Grid has decided that even in the face of uncertainties associated with the cancer-causing effects of exposure to electromagnetic forces and uncertainties associated with a $100 million dig in the city streets with countless unknown conditions under the surface of those streets, it is better to deal with the residents of Beverly and its mayor rather than the MBTA. Please do not vote tonight for the granting of these location permits. Please continue this meeting and allow Beverly citizens to provide conditions to add to the awarding of this permit. We want to do the best we can to see that National Grid performs their project delivery with the full extent of checks and balances. help the citizens of Beverly through the work of this democratic representation of our council and our mayor.
Madam President, that's the time.
Mr. Young, you can finish your
I will. I just wanted to wait till that.
Yes, please.
If it was an important call, maybe they would take it. So. Help the citizens of Beverly through this work of its democratic representation, our council and our mayor, our senator and our representative who are in the room tonight too, to protect our citizens and stop putting National Grid's profits before our health, well-being, and safety. Not only do we as ratepayers pay the $100 million construction tab, but we pay for the long-term effects of a fatally flawed process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Younger, and I will invite, if National Grid, you did ask a question, and I will invite them to help to provide some of the information to the question you asked about going past the cemetery. I do want to just mention, you also mentioned the documents that we received this afternoon being shared with the public, and so you, like Ms. Fogerty, I think are a fortune teller or a mind reader, because I had leaned over to the city clerk just before you got up and said, those public documents that came in, we can make available, and she said that she was getting them ready so that we could easily share them. So yes to your question, but I wanted to make sure to just confirm that for you. And I also should have allowed Councilor Rotundo to play the sound effect.
And unfortunately, Madam President, I thought it was a different sound, but it's not. So now we all know what the sound sounds like. It is not the phone call coming in, it is the timer, so that is my apology.
So when you hear that groovy tune, you can begin to wrap up your thoughts. And so thank you, Mr. Young. You did that just perfectly, even without knowing that that groovy song was the end of the time.
It was not my fault.
So thank you. If you would like to respond or give more information, please.
Yes, I wanted to respond to Mr. Younger. Thank you for the question. We are proceeding up the on that side, as he referenced, to the cemetery on Hale Street, adjacent to Hale Street. We have a very in-depth plan on procedures and process of how we're going to go about that, knowing that that is a sensitive area.
Councilor Bowen, did you have a follow-up to that? That seems like it touches on your question.
Yes, yeah, I think it does. And so I think the question from my side is, how can we as a community have some assurance that that plan is as robust as we would like it to be, and some knowledge of that plan in general, so that we as a full community, not only the one project engineer that National Grid will pay for the city to have to sort of watch over the process and make sure that it adheres to all the plans, that in addition to that one person, we can sort of all be watching this project and knowing that, you know, the care that we expect is being taken. And so for that site in particular, you know, hearing that there is a plan is reassuring. Hearing that an archaeological consultant has identified areas of concern, not just that one, but at least one other along the route in Beverly, and I think one in Salem as well. It's important for us to know that, and I understand there may be some parts of that that can't be shared publicly for various reasons, but seeing that plan and seeing in particular National Grid's part of that plan and the construction manager's part in that plan, you know, who's going to be watching over what's in our streets that belongs to all of us and the people who came before us. So more detail would be helpful, and more detail about whose role is what, so that we know who to ask if we spot things that don't look right, or so that we can have some assurance up front and talk through some more what level of care we're expecting.
Thank you, Councilor Bowen. Any response to Councilor Bowen's question?
No response.
Okay, thank you. So the next speaker who signed up to speak is Karen Fogerty. Ms. Fogerty, if you would come to the podium and name and address for the record, and then floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Karen Fogerty, and I live at 169 Lothrop Street. I just wanted to add, notwithstanding the forbearance that the representatives of National Grid have stated in their 4-month acquiescence while we engaged in a process here, many of you on the council are new to this process, and I want to make sure that you are aware that it began earlier than 2017. And National Grid has been engaged in this process for years. And the EFSB had its public hearing in December of 2019. So the claim of urgency is a little hollow to me. And so I would invite you to take as much time as the council feels that it needs to have a full grasp of this issue and not succumb to a claim of exigency or urgency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fogerty. Are there other members of the public who would like to speak, even if you did not? Thank you very much, sir. If you would come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and so that our clerk's office can get that down on the list as well.
My name is Don Mocha. I live at 236 Lothrop Street. The reason I'm here tonight is it's a fairly small section of the route, 3.7 mile route that I'm concerned about, and that's the route that goes right by my house. In the middle of Lothrop Street, there is a 40-inch wide drain that was put back there in the early 2000s by the Mayor Scanlon. And the purpose was to reduce the flooding that was going on in the whole cove area. And it very effectively did that job. I rarely ever see any flooding in my yard anymore. I just want to make sure that National Grid is aware that this section from about Parramatta Road to Corning Street, there's this 40-inch pipe right in the middle of the road. And I really don't want this project to take place, but if it does, that they made provisions to make sure they don't damage it, and that if it does get damaged, it's going to start flooding the area again. So I don't know if the engineers at National Grid even know about it. Not too many people do. The people who live in that area certainly do. Do you?
Sure. Yes, if you would come up and address Mr. Mocha's question, please.
My name is Sinan Ashkari. I'm the underground transmission engineer for National Grid. We are aware of the 40-inch culvert in the street on Lothrop Street, and we plan to take every precaution to support the utility there and to protect it during the construction. If things were, to get damaged during the construction, we would repair the culvert and not leave it damaged as we continue construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mocha. Are there other members of the public who would like to speak at this time? Thank you very much, sir. You can come to the podium and name and address for the record if you would.
My name is Martin Greenstein. I live at 65 Cross Lane. And in my entire business career, I never ask a question I don't know the answer to, but I'm going to do it tonight. Is this the only option for the entire city of Beverly that this cable has to go through the heart of the city with all of these houses and neighborhoods? Is that the only option that National Grid has? or are there other options that may be more expensive, yet a lot better off for the people in the city? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Greenstein. Mr. Riley.
Yeah. So we undertook an extensive route selection analysis before we put our application together for the siting board. We hired BSC Group as our consultant to help us work through that. We established a potential project site area, which was essentially the entirety of the city. We had to get from point A to point B, which is the Wade Street. It's going to be a new Wade Street station in Salem, and we have to get to East Beverly substation. So that creates some physical constraints, right? Because you have to get from point A. But we looked at over 60 different routes. We consulted very closely with the mayor's office. We had several meetings over several months with them. They guided us to certain routes that we shouldn't go down. They told us, provided just some local information about their infrastructure, things like that, that all got packaged together. And, when you look at the spaghetti map, if you take some route out, then others fall out too, so it eventually got distilled down. There's no route we didn't look at. We assigned weighted average, not averages, but numerical or quantitative numbers to each different categories: constructability, the number of residences, whether there's schools and other sensitive receptors, are there wetlands, are there other environmental features. All of this stuff got packaged together. We looked at it very closely, and ultimately, as the EFSB found, we picked this most superior route over all others, looking at a balance of environmental impacts, social impacts, reliability, and cost. That's the charge that the siting board has. That's their standard of review, and we met that. We did a ton of work to make sure that this was the right route when you balance all those factors. And I know people might not like it who live there. I get that, but it's not for lack of trying and examination. So.
Thank you.
Lawyer for a day. Why can't you look, and you've got so many people that this is going to affect. There has to be another option. It might take a lot longer, it might be more money, and it might affect some wetlands, but as long as you keep it away from people's homes, I think it'd be a lot easier to get this through than to drive it right down Lothrop Street, from the bridge to Water to Lothrop to over Cross Lane, and affect so many people. There's got to be another option. And I really hope that you folks maybe sit down and come up with Plan B.
Thank you very much, Mr. Greenstein. And I do want to just mention that, as I said at the beginning, we will be continuing this hearing till our April 4th meeting. And some of the folks that we would like to invite in are the city's engineer, constructability consultant, and EMF consultants to ask more of exactly the questions that you're asking. So I just want to highlight that too for folks who may be planning on coming back to that hearing. Okay. In the back, please, sir. Oh, if you would come to the podium. Thank you. Name and address for the record, and then...
David Mahood, 191 Lothrop Street. I have a prepared statement up there, but I'm not going to read that. For the record, I'm an environment writer and an environment activist, so National Grid certainly wouldn't be high on my list of favorite friends, but I understand about reliability. One thing I wanted to say is, in 13 years of being on Lothrop Street, we've lost power twice, and one of them was a forced shutoff. That's pretty reliable. So A, and B, your own documents indicate that 60% or more of that energy that's going through that pipeline is fossil fuel-based. So here we are today trying to get off fossil fuels, and you're putting a $100 million investment, and 60% of that energy is derived from fossil fuels. How in the world is that good investment for the future, and certainly not just for Beverly, but for the globe? I'll leave you with that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahood. Your name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Some tall people. My name's Andrea Friedman. I live at 32 Buttman Street. I'm not an eloquent lawyer or, activist. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm not good at this kind of thing. I wanted to say something. I wanted to kind of respond to what Marty had said. There is a better place, and I think it's the right of way where the current line is, the current line that failed. And let's just be really clear. This is what's the best option for National Grid, not for Beverly. And this is not, I don't live on Lothrop Street. This is not about NIMBYism or not in my backyard. And I want to speak directly to the citizens of Beverly. If you think just because this isn't going down your street, this doesn't affect you, you are wrong. You are 100% wrong, and there are some hidden costs that are coming right back to us, not only environmental, but financial as well. So I want the citizens of Beverly to hear this, and I want the city council to hear this. This is what's right for National Grid. This is not what's right for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Friedman. And I know you said that you didn't know if you were that eloquent, but I thought you did just fine. Are there other members of the public? Oh, I was going to say I'll have this gentleman go and then have you come up if that's okay. At the podium, if you would, please.
Hi, my name is Danielle Oretz. Mark had previously introduced me because I handle the stakeholder outreach for this program. And I just wanted to give a very high-level 2-second overview because I do understand that we're using words like reliability, and if people don't experience power outages and extended outages at their homes or their business, they tend, the word reliability can kind of be confusing because it confused me when I first started working for the utility company. The transmission system, which is what this project is about, is the backbone of the electricity system. It's what brings the power from where it's made, generation, which could be at multiple generation plants. It's a mix of different generation. That brings it to the region. And that region could be like this one, the Beverly and Cape Ann region. It could be like projects I have in Fall River, where it's the southeast region of Massachusetts. That then gets brought and distributed to your homes, your businesses, your major customers like your universities, your hospitals. So when we're talking about the reliability, it's to make sure that we have a reliable transmission cable that can bring the power to the region. That was all I wanted to say. I'm more than happy to answer questions or anything. I'm not an engineer. I just wanted to make sure people kind of understood the difference between transmission and distribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, if you would like to go to the podium. Your name and address for the record, please, and then you can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much. William Benjamin, 175 Lothrop Street. Ooh, never been to one of these before, a little nervous. I work a lot with power utilities in my job, not at a utility, but I can certainly understand the process that the front row over here is working through and can appreciate the complexity of it. Also, as a juxtaposition to what we're all talking about, environmental concerns, health concerns. I am new to Lothrop Street, and I really heard about this really because my neighbors had a bunch of signs in their yards. I just moved here less than 6 months ago. Great time from a resale value, I suppose. But I'm a fairly young guy thinking about I'm settling down, getting married later this fall, thinking about kids. And I'd love to hear just a little bit more about what my neighbors are talking about in the streets with regard to health effects, potentially. And I won't pretend to be very well versed in all the issues of this. I'm learning a ton right now. But I would just love to hear it from National Grid or from whoever can speak about it, as someone who wants to grow a family here, spend a lot of time in Beverly, and just thinking about the health of all of us, including, hopefully, my future family. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin, and welcome to Beverly. It's nice to have you here. And thank you for being here tonight. And I do want to say, our last two speakers, you both referenced that you haven't spoken at the podium too much or done this often, and thank you for doing it. I know it probably can feel a little nerve-wracking the first time you're up there, and it's just so appreciated and so important. And so I'll just let that be for everybody who's spoken tonight as well. So whether you've been here in the chamber with us many times or this is the first time that you're here, and whether you're here listening and you're not ready to speak tonight, your presence here and your voice matters. So thank you for being here, and thank you, some of you, for taking the risk to speak, even if it's the first time you've done it. Sir.
Good evening. My name is William Bailey, and like all of you, if a large project like this was coming to my neighborhood, I would be in the audience wanting to learn more about it and asking questions. I've been working in the field of bioelectromagnetics for almost 40 years. I trained at Dartmouth College, University of Chicago, City University of New York, Rockefeller University. And because of my background and experience, I've been involved in all kinds of projects, biomedical devices, electric railroads, transmission lines, substations, looking at interactions between these fields and the environment and people in that environment. I think it's important to understand, and if you've had the time to go through our reports, you'll quickly recognize that electric and magnetic fields, in this case, we're only focusing on the magnetic field because this project is completely blocking the electric field because it's placed underground. So we're just talking about the magnetic field, and this magnetic field is present wherever electricity is used or delivered. So as the spokesperson indicated before, a transmission line brings electricity into an area. It's then distributed on lower voltage cables, which also create a magnetic field, sometimes overhead, sometimes underground. And so wherever we are and whatever time we spend in a particular environment, we will encounter these fields. So they're omnipresent everywhere in developed countries. Because the cables are placed underground, they can be, the transmission wires can be placed very close together. So the magnetic fields from those wires will mutually tend to cancel the magnetic field. So the magnetic field directly above the cable could be much lower than if it were a companion overhead transmission line, and the spread of the field away from the conductors would be far greater if this line was proposed as overhead. And we have sources everywhere that are bringing these currents to us beside the electric system itself. We protect ourselves from electric shock by grounding all of our devices to water pipes. And so currents float and carry on water pipes throughout a city. Those currents can sometimes be a major source of magnetic field exposure in people's homes. So it's just because this is described as a transmission line, it doesn't necessarily mean that because of the way that it's designed, that it's going to produce fields that are outside of the range that you would encounter anyway. So overhead distribution lines that go down many streets, cities, produce fields up to maybe 19, 20 milligauss directly underneath. And then they dissipate with distance into the street and to the residences. That's about the magnitude of the highest fields in the roads from this project. Typically, the fields would be at 10 feet away. We're talking about fields less than 10 milligauss. So if you put on a recording magnetic field meter as you go about your day, you're going to find fields in that magnitude and perhaps higher wherever you go. If you ride on the trains, electric trains, subways, all are powered by electricity. They're all sources of magnetic fields. So I think that it's important to not try and focus exclusively on what is the contribution of this project, but does the magnetic fields contributed by this project go outside the bounds of anything that you or I or our children would encounter on a daily basis? The answer is no. We have been looking at potential effects of magnetic fields for hundreds of years, going back to the time of ancient Greeks and coming up to the present. Concerns about magnetic fields began in the early 1970s and have continued to this date. Thousands of research studies have been done. The Environmental Protection Agency has noted that more research has been done about EMF than most of the 50,000 chemicals that are present in daily life. And so a lot has been known, and a lot of prestigious agencies have looked into this question about potential health and environmental effects. And that literature is not controverted by the report of commissioned by the city, nor by agencies like the World Health Organization, the National Cancer Institute, and so on. And so I think that it's understandable that people have questions and want to learn more. And this is a very large and complex topic, but I would advise that they focus on the conclusions of these multidisciplinary agencies that have spent many years evaluating this body of research. Thank you.
Thank you. And I saw Mr. Younger's hand, and then we'll go to you, sir. Mr. Younger, if you would like to come on back up.
A couple of quick questions. I was interested in what the gentleman had to say, and I only had really two questions for him. Can you hear me, gentlemen? I don't know his name, but
Mr. Bailey.
Just a couple questions for you. One, do you work for National Grid?
No, I do not.
Okay. Are you being paid to be here tonight?
Yes, they have retained my company to...
Who has retained you? National Grid? Right, who has retained you to be here tonight?
National Grid.
So,
Mr. Bailey, would you mind going to the microphone when you answer, just because otherwise folks watching on BevCam can only hear half the conversation.
so my question for Mr. Bailey, was it Dr. Bailey?
Yes.
Dr. Bailey is, are you being paid to be here tonight, and who's paying you?
I work for a firm called Exponent, and our firm has been retained to provide technical advice and information to National Grid for this project. I have been working in this field for many years. I served on a number of national and international advisory panels on this topic. So National Grid has asked me to be a technical resource because this is not their area of specialty, and it has been mine over my career. And so that's why they invited me to come here tonight to address your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey, and I apologize for using your title incorrectly at first. I do want to mention, I'd mentioned this before, but we will be working with the mayor's team to make sure that we have the folks who did the city's independent EMF study to be here on the 4th to be able to answer some of these questions that are being raised tonight as well. So for those who missed that part, I want to just reiterate that that will be part of the reason that we want to make sure that we continue this, to be able to get that information, because there is as you can tell, there's quite a lot to be digested, and quite a lot that we want to make sure that we cover. Mr. Cosmas, I saw your hand. And if you would, name and address for the record, please.
My name is Will Cosmas. I live at 32 Washington Street here in Beverly. I'm the third or fourth William in the community to speak tonight. But something just piqued my interest at the beginning of the presentation, and that was the idea that the archaeological reports would be proprietary to National Grid. I'm a litigator by training. I've been practicing law for some time, and I've been running fact patterns through my head as to how it could be, and I must admit I'm running up dry. I don't know all the facts, but I would, and this dovetails off what Councilor Bowen said about the history and the heritage and the respect that we need to give to what lies beneath our streets that we might not know about. So I would urge the Solicitor's Office and the Special Counsel to the Council and the City Council itself and National Grid to work together to give as much disclosure as possible to the public as to what might be underneath the streets and what might be implicated by the dig to the extent it moves forward. I think that more disclosure and more transparency is helpful in any situation, especially concerning the history of a city that goes back at least 300 years and longer, 400 years at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cosmas. Mr. Riley.
Sorry if I wasn't clear before. The report is not proprietary to National Grid. The Public Archaeology Laboratory marks it confidential because of precisely the concern about people knowing where relics or artifacts are. That's not something that they generally like to be disclosed because of robbery or whatever. So it's out of concern to protect the thing and keep it where it is. It's not a grid issue. So.
Thank you. Are there other, sir? If you would, your name and address for the record, please, before you begin.
Hi, William Kairouz, 246 Lothrop Street. I also haven't spoken in front of anybody for like 3 years, so thanks for your inspiration. Just a quick question, if more for the city, because when we talk about EMF radiation, so at best, the jury is out on the impact on child leukemia. But what I'm curious about, the comment was made about, EMF in our daily lives, but this is about EMF at our homes where we're there hours and hours every day. It's not occasional exposure, in a commute or something like that. So I'm wondering if it's possible to look at existing EMF radiation around the existing high voltage power line, compare that to existing background EMF radiation in people's homes on Lothrop Street and other homes along the path of the proposed cable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kairouz, and thank you for being here. And I do know, as Mr. Cosmas did, we do have quite a plethora of Williams speaking tonight. And I think the Williams in our city are well represented. Thank you for being one of them.
Danielle Loretz again with Stakeholder, and I wanted to reiterate that one of the things that we had offered back in November was for residents, if they go to the website and they there's a section on the website that says contact us, and you can put your information in, and there is a box that says that you can click if you're interested to receive Mark's a lot taller than me. If you are interested to receive a pre-construction and a post-construction EMF reading at your house, that would be scheduled prior to us doing construction in those sections. So we would go to your house, we would set up the appointment at your convenience, take those EMF readings both outside your property and inside if you so wish to have them inside, and then you receive a copy of that report via email from the technician. And we would do that prior to construction and then post-construction so that you can see the average EMF that you have in your home and on your property prior to this project and then after this project. It says contact us, and you would just put your information in, and there's a little box. The website is, I can put that up, but the website is quite long. It's Beverly Regional Transmission Reliability Project.com. I know it's a long one. I believe the city does have the link on their website as well that would bring you to our site. It's also posted on all of the material that we have left on the doors and all of the mailings. There's also, if you don't want to use the computer to sign up, you can call the hotline number, and you can also email us as well, and we can set that up for you. Again, just to make it clear, we are not setting up appointments yet until we know when we can start construction. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Bowen, yeah, I started.
Thank you, and I know there may be more public comment, but just had a follow-up question on that. For people who are considering requesting that, have also heard questions about being able to do video surveys, so if you could speak to that a little bit, and then also just what can people expect if they find in the report that levels are elevated post-project?
Sure, so I can speak to some of that. There's also going to be the opportunity where we have agreed that, and it's part of our requirement to do a video survey, again, of the route and of structures, homes, businesses, and whatnot, exterior video surveys. And that letter will go out approximately 30 days prior to construction starting. And in that letter, you will again also have the option to have the inside of your house video surveyed. Again, this is so that, they can identify any features in your home, whether, you have, you don't have cracks and you might get, you have cracks later on and you want to submit a claim or something like that. But it's basically so that there is a record 30 days prior to construction of what your property looks like and how the way it looked, blanking. So that letter will be sent to the abutters roughly about 30 days prior to construction. As far as any kind of EMF questions prior, post-construction, I am not an EMF expert and I cannot speak to that. So I do apologize that I can't answer that question, Councilor Bowen, but like I said, we're transparent with, we're trying to be as transparent as we possibly can.
Dr. Bailey.
I would just like to comment on the characterization the jury is still out about research on EMF and health. As I said before, this is a topic that has been well researched. We know a lot about EMF. We know the whole history of magnetism, and electromagnetics allows us to calculate magnetic fields with great accuracy and precision. We certainly could not be sending spacecraft out outside of our solar system without knowing very accurately how the laws of physics work. So in terms of characterizing exposure, we know a lot about that, and there is no uncertainty about how to determine what exposures are and are not. With regard to the potential biological effects of magnetic fields, that has been under study for decades and decades. And many prestigious agencies, the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences instituted a $60 million research program in the 1990s to respond to Congress to address the question of whether power lines and appliances that we use in our homes had adverse health effects. That was reported out in 1999. Another report came out in 2002. Many other agencies have continued to review and evaluate this research. The National Institutes has research programs that they contributed to. Internationally, there are research programs that have been conducted, and all of this research has been reviewed by multidisciplinary teams of scientists. And none of these national and international reviews that have conducted these in-depth assessments has concluded that magnetic field levels, such as we are accustomed to every day in our homes and communities, has any adverse effect on health.
Thank you. If you would, name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Thanks. I'm sorry. Do you all mind moving from behind me? It just feels a little weird to have you standing right behind me. You're also tall and in your suits. My name's Alyssa Raymond Reed. I use she, her pronouns. I live at 163 Lothrop Street. It's really great to see so many of the community members here that have been working on this for a long time. And I appreciate the council's time. I just got here late. I apologize, so I haven't heard all of the comments. And I look forward to being a little more prepared, perhaps, on April 4th. I just want to acknowledge that this is not really a fair conversation. We don't have a paid expert that we have on retainer to come to city council meetings to deliver really calm sounding assessments of the standards that are used for EMFs. I want to make a couple points. One, EMFs are just one small slice of the pie that I think that residents are worried about in terms of causing damage. They are the lightning rod, but and they're the lightning rod for good reason. I don't even mean that as a pun, but it's a good one. They're really frightening. I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and it is really scary to know that there is a correlation, even if not a causation, and that there are still huge, huge legal battles going on, not just in municipalities with siting issues, but across the state and across the world. There are other countries that use much more stringent standards than we use here in the United States and then the World Health Organization uses. And they're there because they use a more precautionary principle that's based on a different standard of analysis for what to use as a legal standard. So I want the city council just to be really aware that you're not hearing the whole story when you're hearing National Grid's paid on retainer consultant talking to you about the health impacts of EMF. And I urge you all to take some time. I'm not capable of talking about it in an informed way as a scientist, but I am informed as a lawyer who's been involved in hearing and learning about why the standards are changing and why people are protesting these standards through litigation and regulatory changes. Another thing for the city council to be aware of is that right now in Massachusetts, there's a huge attempt to reform the DPU and the siting process, including the kind of siting process that's happening right here before us. And we have a real obligation, I think, as a city to take some time to think about what standards, how these standards get applied, and what precedent is being set if we allow it to proceed without using the powers of the municipality to fully examine the impacts on not just the affected abutters, but on all ratepayers. These are good, we're going to electrify. That's a good thing. We want to be moving towards electricity. We all do need to find ways to create reliable energy, and no one's saying that we shouldn't do that. I think that foisting all of the uncertainties, including uncertainties about EMFs, onto individual homeowners and business owners is not only a terrifying prospect for those individual people, but for sort of the precedent of how we are going to site all of the future electric grid. So I also really want to acknowledge that you're hearing some really broad strokes answers, and the city council's obligation right now is to dig underneath that. And I appreciate that you're all in public service and have sort of limited time. I ask that you take the time that you need right now to do some working groups to think about what further needs research, whether the feasibility study that the city did is adequate to examine whether there's another alternative here, even if it's more expensive. And to think about, do we really want to be taking all of the uncertainties, flooding, having huge, dangerous gas lines being crowded in with high electric voltage that might need to be only increased in a few more years if we continue to decarbonize. Different kinds of environmental pollution that might occur, disruption to the residents that are going to be affected, livelihood loss. I mean, our conversations have spanned a lot more than this, and I'm trying to pack it in. EMFs is a lightning rod that really matters, but it's not, that's the one that they brought an expert for to talk to you about. There's a lot of other concerns, and to say that the MBTA can't be worked with, I think is a false flag, and we should dig a little deeper. So I'm asking for that from the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, we're here to answer questions in any regard about the project. I stood here ready to answer questions. That's why we're standing here. I appreciate everybody's response. I appreciate the concern. It's great to hear. We would like to be able to be provided the opportunity just to make a quick concluding statement at the end of all this.
Thank you. And I think there's no question that it's very helpful to have you here to answer questions. I think what you're hearing from the counselors and the members of the public is just that we want to be sure that we have the chance to really investigate the topic, to speak to other experts, and digest all the documents that we received as well. Councilor Houseman, are you waving at me? Oh, thank you. Councilor Sweeney, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick follow-up question. I know it's come up in a handful of the public comments tonight, and that we've, as counselors, reviewed some of the materials, especially those of the energy facility siting board in greater depth. But Mr. O'Leary, would you mind taking this chance to elaborate upon why the MBTA right-of-way was not a feasible route that National Grid could have considered as a potential alternative for this project?
Yes, thank you for the question. It's a great question. It's probably the most prominent question that's been around for the whole entirety of the process. I know that the city has concluded, or had a consultant conclude their own study. I have not seen that study. I heard snippets of that study. However, with the MBTA feasibility, there's a number of factors. There's already infrastructure that's in place, whether it's National Grid's infrastructure and the underground cables or our overhead cables that are along the tracks that are very visual to everyone, as well as the constructibility of the land. There's simply not enough space. There's a lot of infrastructure underneath that it's not visual to your eye. But there's cables, there's a positive track control, there's another track control system that the MBTA is moving to put in as well into a very tight, narrow corridor. It's simply space. There is not enough room. We have a cable that's in there now, and I heard a lot of comments and a lot of questions like, well, why don't you just dig it and put it where that cable is and remove the cable? First, it won't fit. That cable was put in, it's a direct buried cable. It's a completely different system that was put in early 1970s. In order to take that cable out, this whole region would be on one supply of electricity. This is not just Beverly, this is the region. I get questions from many towns, not just the city of Beverly. The region would be on one supply. If it was even feasible to put something in there, that we would have to take that out for 6+ years. We cannot serve our customers in this area under circumstances like that. And that's if we could even take that cable out. There's no room to put it in. This is a completely different infrastructure. It's more modern. It's more reliable for the future. And yes, we're very worried about that cable. We're here. I understand Ms. Fogerty's concerns. She had made a great comment. We're here because of the infrastructure problems that we have that have been ongoing. They continue to get worse. We just had an outage. You might have noticed some of the traffic disruption that we unfortunately caused the city over on River Street for 2 weeks, fixing the cable, the existing cable. So for those 2 weeks, we were in the height of blizzard season. March, we have blizzards, we have snowstorms. This whole region was served by one overhead conductor running up the MBTA tracks. Just something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. So At this point, I am mindful of the time, and because I know that there's a lot of questions that counselors still have documents, as we said, that we've requested that we will be sharing with you all as the public. We want to have time to review those. I don't, however, want anybody who is right on the verge of speaking to feel like you went home and you were about to speak and you didn't have the opportunity. So I would like to ask one more time for this evening's portion, and reiterating that there will be time for public comment at our April 4th meeting as well. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak during this portion of the hearing?
Just one question.
Oh, Mr. Mocha, would you mind? I know it's just one question, but just for all of our viewers at home.
The three of them.
I think I heard you say that the city of Beverly has EMF experts that are preparing a rebuttal, just like a comparison to what we're hearing from National Grid. Is that totally independent?
Mr. Mayor, would you like to comment at all on this? I know your team that you worked with is not here tonight, but if you want to say something briefly in answer to Mr. Mocha's question, please, if you would.
Thanks, Madam President. Yes, so we've done a couple of things, right? We've hired an EMF consultant to do a peer review of grid study, and then we've added some additional scope of looking at more recent updates to the body of work. And there is a report from that EMF consultant that's on our website now. Yep. So you can give that a look, and that consultant will be here at the next meeting to present and answer some questions. We also hired another consultant to look at National Grid's constructability review. They had a consultant look at constructability in the MBTA right-of-way, and so we did that. Plus, the consultant we brought on did some of their own work with the reaching out to the MBTA in addition to looking at that study. They also will be here next meeting. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Reed. And thank you, Mr. Mocha, for your question.
So Alyssa again, 163 Lothrop.
Thank you.
I believe also that, Mr. Mayor, you can, I'm not sure if it's online, but I know that there was a recording done of a conversation that some of us had with those consultants to hear some preliminary results. So you can actually hear we had some pretty strong questions for some of us that came to that meeting. We had some strong questions for the consultants, and for anyone who's interested in hearing those questions, you'll hear, in my view, what was an admission from that peer review consultant that there is uncertainty still about EMFs, that he in fact gives advice to people who, when they're trying to buy a property and they discover that there's a high voltage line, are concerned about their property values going down. And also that the feasibility study that was done essentially found, that higher cost, less convenient. But again, I'm not sure why that should be on us to solve. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Mr. Mayor, would you mind just coming up and just sharing with folks where on the website they can find that video? Or Ms. Jacobson.
Thanks, Madam. This is Ronnie Jacobson, our Constituent Services Director, who handles all of the website.
So the latest YouTube video, you can find it right on the webpage. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a little picture and an identifier for that. All the other stuff is on the engineering page under projects, and you can click to find, I think, all of the documents that we've talked about today. And I think I'll defer to Lisa Kent for the rest of it, the documents that came in today.
Let me
You can put it up today if you want.
Let me say something that Ronnie may tell me I'm wrong on, but could we use the banner for the next couple weeks?
Mm-hmm.
So on the homepage of the website up top, there's a banner. Let's make it easy, one click easy for everybody, because this is so timely. So for the next couple weeks between now and the next meeting, let's put it top of the homepage.
And this is the City of Beverly website that we're talking
Yeah,
about, just for clarification for everyone. City of Beverly.
Yeah.
Yes.
BeverlyMA.gov.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Before we recess this hearing to our next meeting, Mr. Young.
This is a matter of.
sorry, Mr. Younger. May I ask you to go to the podium again?
Since we're all talking about websites, and there's a lot of information out there, I think that it's another website you may want to go to it's Reliable Energy 101. You have to Google it because it's a Google site. It's free. It didn't cost us anything. But it has the video that Alyssa was talking about. It has the EFSB's, DPU's dockets and records. It has copies of the construction drawings. It has EMF information. It has a lot more information that's easier to find than trying to find it yourself. So, and if you have any questions, you can send an email to reliableenergy101@gmail.com. All free resources, all done without any paid consultants or any taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Younger. Before we recess this hearing, I don't want to put them on the spot, but Representative or Senator, would you like a moment to speak? You don't have to, but I didn't want you to feel that you came and didn't have a moment to speak if you would like to.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the council. For the record, Joan Lovely, State Senator for Beverly. I've spoken in this chamber before on this project, and I know what's coming because we lived it in Salem, and it was very difficult to go through city streets. Beverly and Salem are very alike in terms of older homes, historic homes, a lot of properties. It's disruptive. It's going to be a disruptive process, and we've asked Grid to take a look at take another look at the MBTA right-of-way. We understand there are a lot of constraints since this cable was installed back in the 70s, but we said that we would work with them. I do have a question about the cable as it goes under the Veterans Memorial Bridge, because it won't be buried at that point, I believe. It's going to probably go right under the bridge. And what is the EMF for that, for pedestrians, bicycle riders? That's going to be part of the the bike route that comes from Salem, Beverly, and reverse. I'm sure that's been looked at. You don't have to answer it tonight, but maybe for the next hearing when we're here. But I'm concerned about that because that is an exposed cable. At that point, it's not buried. It goes under the contour of the bridge, and so I was wondering about that as well. We're going to continue to stay a part of this process. That's why we're here tonight, to listen to these concerns and still to encourage Grid to go back to the right-of-way option. Thank you.
No, thank you, and it's great to hear from everybody in the public. We've had a number of meetings with the mayor, the council, National Grid, and others, and just want to tell you that we're a resource. Our offices are here to help you, help the citizens of Beverly in any way that we can to try to mitigate the issues that have come with this. We'll work with the MBTA if they'll reconsider that. We're happy to talk to the MBTA and try to see if that's a viable option. I mean, the information that we got from National Grid is that they're not going to take that option, but we're willing to work with the MBTA and try to make that a possibility. That seems to be the choice that I think everybody in Beverly would like to have happen. So we're willing to work with you, willing to work with the mayor, willing to work with National Grid to see what we can do to help mitigate this. And I just encourage National Grid to reach out to the neighborhood while this is going on to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding of what happened. There seemed to be a lot of issues about whether or not the neighbors and the city even knew much about this project prior to it coming to fruition. So please reach out to the neighbors. Please reach out to the city of Beverly so that we make sure everyone understands what's happening and what's going to be going on in their neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator and Representative, for being here with us, and thank you for your commitment to continue to be involved in the process with us as well. With that, I know there were a few questions that were just asked there at the end or flagged for next time. I do want to just reiterate Senator Lovely's question about the cable as it goes under the bridge. I think that would be great information to bring back next time. And I did want to just flag Councillor Bowen's sort of dangling question about what, though, is the mitigation or next step if a resident discovers elevated EMF levels after a project like this. And so I think that would be important information for us to hear next meeting as well. I want to thank everybody who was here tonight and gave your time. As I said, I know it can be difficult, especially after your day. You've already had your day and you're still here with us in the chamber. And so thank you for taking the time. Thank you to everyone who watched on BevCam. It is incredibly important. We appreciate your being here. Thank you to the National Grid team for being here. We'll look forward to hearing more answers to some of those last questions from you next time. We'll look forward to having some of the folks with whom the mayor's team and the city has been working so that we can get some of those answers. And Ms. Kent did say to me, as we were talking, those documents that just came in, she'll work with Ms. Jacobson to get those up on that website as well. So you can expect to see those getting up there on the City of Beverly site. So thank you. With that, I'm going to recess this public hearing. We'll recess this until our April 4th meeting at 8:00 p.m. Thank you very much. Councilors, I would entertain a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. 5-minute recess. All right, thank you, everyone. We are back, and we are picking up on our agenda here with communications from other city officers and boards as we head towards our break for subcommittee. So Ms. Kent.
Order number 89 from the City Clerk's Office, a request to change the September 6, 2022 regular City Council meeting to Monday, September 12, 2022, due to the September 6, 2022 state primary election.
Thank you very much. I would entertain a motion to receive that and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
Is all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 8-0. Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Thank you, Ms. Visnick. Place on file.
Order number 90 from the City Clerk. It's for a fortune teller license renewal for Summer Evans at 507 Rantoul Street.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 91 from Parking and Traffic for recommendation for changing the loading zone time parameters at 110-114 Rantoul Street.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs. Let's go to communications, applications, and petitions, please.
Order number 92 from the Department of Environmental Protection, issuance of Chapter 91 Waterways License Permit Number 15441.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to receive that and place it on file.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 9-0. And motions and orders, please.
Order number 55. Be attained the City Council of the City of Beverly as follows in the year 2022 in an ordinance amending an ordinance relative to Chapter 270 Vehicles and Traffic, Section 270-49, off-street parking, handicap parking, amending Section 270-49 as follows. Add a handicap parking sign in space at Lions Park vicinity of 126 Lothrop Street. The space would be on the eastern side of Lothrop Street, adjacent to the playground structure. And this is the final passage.
Thank you very much. So this has been read at previous meetings. This is for final passage tonight. Councilor Houseman, this is in your ward. Any comments on this?
Yeah, no, I'm just excited to see this finally come to fruition. We could really use a handicap spot right next to that playground. So, and my thanks to Officer Hannaberry for carrying the load on making sure this gets pushed forward.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve Order 55?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you very much. And I would entertain a motion to break for committee work.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So tonight, Legal Affairs has the heaviest agenda. We'll have Legal Affairs stay here. Finance and Property will meet in the committee room. And Public Services, you have nothing that you are acting on tonight, correct, Councilor Feldman?
I do not believe there's anything in, there are some, couple of things that went to
But nothing
Public
to
Services,
take action.
but nothing on that.
So Public Services does not need to meet during this break, so you can choose where you'd like
Yeah,
to.
because you have to wait 7 days. on
Right,
appointments.
That's, I was like, there's a reason why I can't
have just all the
touch
orders
any of
right now.
those, okay.
You have to wait 7 days. on appointments. So-
Christine's going to be with you.
to me, because
Okay, I'm going to call to order legal affairs, so. Ready?
Yeah, now's the
All
chance.
right. Call to order Committee on Legal Affairs and also Committee of the Whole. Or if they're not staying, okay. All right, so let's see, we're gonna start with, Oh, can we, just so you know, that, so this is on BevCam, so if the conversations inside chambers could cease, that would be great. Thank you. I'm sure you'll help us in the near future. Okay, so we have, is Danielle still in here? No, okay.
No, but we put something.
All right. So we're gonna go to order number 87, please, and thank you. Okay, order number 87 is the recommendation for the acceptance of easement from Cummings Properties at 50 Denham Road.
Good evening. Planning Director Darlene Nguyen wasn't able to come in on this. This is something that originated with the Concom. There was a special condition attached to a order of conditions from the Concom about the parcel that's referenced in both the mayor's cover letter and Jenna Parada's cover letter on behalf of the Concom. So I'm accompanied here tonight with Attorney Damian Savoy, who is with Cummings Properties. If we can answer any questions you may have about the easement, but the easement is really to, there's some frontage on Norwood Pond that interrupts city-owned parcels. So this easement would allow the continued, if you're on the city path along Norwood Pond, to just continue across the Cummings-owned property and then continue on to the city-owned property. So it was something the Concom wanted to memorialize as part of the order of conditions. And now that we're actually moving forward to that, the easement, Mr. Attorney Savoy and I came together with this draft for the easement.
Okay.
So you can see there's an attached plan to the easement also if you want to see where it is. But if you have any questions for myself or Attorney Savoy, we're here to answer them.
Thank you. Questions from the committee members?
I don't have anything right now on this one.
No? I have a question. So this is triggered by like a completion of another project, of the building, or can you just tell me why it's
I'm going to let it.
Sure. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
it's for the building known as 51 Dunham Ridge. The order of conditions, we are now at the stage where we'll be filing for a certificate of compliance. And part of that, we need to show that we've satisfied special condition number 2, as Attorney Dole mentioned. So this is specifically part of just closing out the order of conditions.
Okay, perfect. And does this include signage or other kind of attributes, or just simply the easement?
So this is just purely for the easement. There is signage that we've put up also in connection with the order of conditions that lets the public know where the trail access is. That signage is located both to the north of 51 Dunham as well as to the south. So I believe there's also other access points on other trails that is not our property, but our property does have signage directing the public where they can gain access.
Thank you.
Yes, and I just alluded, I actually have the special conditions that are part of that order of conditions. And there are a number about installation of bird boxes, plantings within the 100 feet of the 100-foot bond.
Oh, I'm sorry. Will you please speak into the microphone? Sorry about that.
Yes, and just in addition to some signage and walking trail blazes and bird boxes, I mean, there were a number of special conditions attached to the order conditions because part of it has to deal with some construction with the 100-foot boundary of Norwood Pond. So in addition to the trail access easement, however it's conditioned, the pedestrian easement, rather, there's some other things about plantings and bird boxings and trail markings and things like that, there's 15 special conditions in addition to the, I want to say 43 standard conditions are all part of the order conditions to Cummings Properties. So this is just one small aspect of it, and Attorney Savoy said they're about to get a certificate of compliance, and this was the last step.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't have any more questions. Anything else from the committee?
Okay, so, and if I'm correct, we can actually vote on this evening. We can vote at our committee?
Yes, the acceptance of the easement only requires can be done in a vote in the subcommittee, and then a vote by the council in one meeting.
Perfect. Okay, I would accept a motion to approve order number 87.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 3-0. And now we'll move on to order number 88. Oh, I'm sorry, did you have something else?
No, he just said thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes.
Somebody
Oh,
found it. Thank you. Sorry for the
okay. And actually, I can adjourn committee of the whole, since we've, right, so motion to adjourn committee of the whole.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to order number 88. And this is an order approving the lease of Kearsarge Beverly LLC for 90 Colon Street, 191 and 502 Cabot Street, 10 and 11 Pond Street, and 100 Sawyer Road for solar voltaic array installation, photovoltaic array installation. Okay. Can I ask, is Kearsarge still, yeah, okay, good, thank you. So I just want to make sure I know who's in the room for committee member questions. Go ahead, Councilor Sweeney, go ahead.
Thank you. And just to kind of build off of the question that I had asked when we were discussing as the committee of the whole, this is a very exciting project. It was actually one that I saw as a member of the planning board, and then get to, again, review the project as a member of the city council. But the point I'd like to make, I appreciate the thoughtfulness on both the part of Kearsarge and the city on the timing of when to construct the canopies. Just noting that with 10 Pond Street and 11 Pond Street, those two parking lots, I'm a resident of that neighborhood. I know the parking lots are usually close to full, if not full, frequently, so that would be the one point. I don't think it's a reason to hold up the project at all, but I would love to see whether it's the mayor from your office or Commissioner Collins, the plan for how to find alternative parking throughout the period of actually constructing the canopies, and then maybe a follow-up for Kearsarge. I know you guys list the period of construction, but just to spell it out again, what you think the timing of putting those canopies in the lots would be, start to finish.
I'll speak first, Councilor Sweeney, and then ask Mr. Voss to. We spent probably 45 minutes on this the other day, and it's an ongoing conversation. We are going to do everything we can to mitigate and minimize the impact of loss of spaces. We all know, when it's busiest, and we want to make sure that, that our downtown businesses and our particularly our Friday, Saturday night, now that the theaters are back going and the live music is back going, and we're going into kind of a busy season of restaurants and live shows. We're going to do everything we can to mitigate and minimize that. And so we've got some period of time to work on that together with Dan, with as Arena said, Dan said it, Commissioner Collins, the engineering department, Arena, me, we're all working on it together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I think just in terms of the time for construction, the period that we've shown on the schedule, it's reasonly flexible. We obviously want to make sure we don't do it during the holiday season, at the back end of the year, and we phased it so that we could have can get through 502 Cabot and Sawyer and then move to 10, 11 Pond, but we can move that around. If that's required to make sure we minimise disruption. And there are two phases to the construction. The first is putting in the foundations. There are 18 foundations. Normally you get through 2 to 3 per day, ideally. And so call it 2 weeks to do foundations. And then the second phase is raising the steel. And that takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. But they're the most disruptive phases, and we can look at how we move from site to site in order to reduce disruption.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rotundo?
Just to follow up on that question, so you're saying 2 and then maybe 4 weeks, so 6 weeks technically is what you're looking for the steel and the foundation of the concrete. And then also you have the solar arrays going on top of the panels. Because we do have such a limited amount, and I know the mayor's looking at ways of mitigating, but there is no real plan in place right now, correct, Mayor? We don't have anything that we can speak to currently that when this project, which speaks to, is when are we looking to do this actual project? Is it going to be the summer? Is it going to be the fall? Is it going to be this, next spring or whatever? And I know you have a time frame, but.
Yep, so this has to be done by the end of calendar year.
Okay.
And that's because in order for Kearsarge to take advantage of the SMART program, they need everything installed and ready to turn on, by end of calendar year. So they know they can't be working here during the holiday shopping season. We know we've got to get the lion's share of the schoolwork done in the summer, right? And we're trying to see if they're going to be able to have both equipment and their workforces ready to go. We're looking at, can we get a little bit of it done before going to the schools? Do we do the schools first and come through? How are we able to bounce back and forth between the two lots? What are we able to do with the weekends versus the weekdays? Initially Dan was saying everything's got to be fenced off for the duration. We're going to try to be creative and be outside the box and try to make sure that our downtown businesses can do what they need to do, and people can get there and find a place to park their cars. So, that's our goal and our challenge for this work.
So I guess my request is to be as transparent and open on the website as communicative to the public, because I know I'm going to hear it at the restaurant. It's the first thing I'm going to hear is there's no parking downtown now. They've just taken all the parking. Even if it's a temporary situation, it's going to be the complaint that's going to be heard. I know Council Rand's most likely going to hear it as well, but that's what I'm foreseeing going to happen in the future, is that even though this project is a great project and I'm all for it, it's just the inconvenience that's going to be happening, coupled with all the traffic that's going on that we're hearing currently. So it's just really the quality of life issues that are going to come up regardless. And I think sometimes making sure that it's out there as best as possible, not that everyone looks at the website, is really my biggest request, is to be communicating as this project goes, from whether it's the school to the high school or wherever, to the City Hall or to Pond Street project. I mean, like I said, I'm full in support of it, but just that is the one piece that has me concerned from hearing from people.
Yep, absolutely agreed. This project is going to be something our kids and grandkids are going to be thanking us for the next couple generations, and it's hugely important, and it's a real win. And so we're going to turn ourselves inside out over the next several weeks to try to make sure that we get this staged right. So,
thank you. I think on that note, I'd love to hear from our sustainability director, if you think that's appropriate,
of course,
just in terms of the
As
project and meeting goals.
As Arena's coming up, could I just say, it's been requested of me that I ask you folks to hold this to the next meeting. We are excited for this project. We want to get started yesterday, but we also recognize that there were a lot of materials that you've had to kind of sort through here, and we want to make sure that all councilors are fully comfortable with taking the vote, so we can work with that April 4th meeting, which I think, so you decide, procedurally what you want to do, but that.
I think it's still appropriate for this committee to hear from everyone who's
Oh
here
no,
tonight
I want that
anyway,
too.
so,
I'm
yeah.
hoping Dan doesn't have to come back on the 4th, because, it's a drive for him and it's a long night. So that's why I want to make sure we do all this now, but I have been asked, and I want to honor that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Counselor, for the invitation. And I know that a few of you, I think, were around for some of the Resilient Together presentations, and then Counselor Sweeney, I know we've talked separately about the goals that were outlined in Resilient Together. So our overarching goal is still to exceed net zero energy by 2050. You hear that a lot. It doesn't really mean so much anymore when there's such a level of urgency that goes beyond chipping away slowly at our energy consumption. So really we're targeting emissions reductions now quickly before 2025. We try and have our emissions by 2030. This project's going to get us there. I mean, right now, about half of our kilowatt hours or our energy comes from renewable sources, from the landfill project over on Burnbull Ave and from the airport project too. And this is kind of calculated differently, right? We're purchasing credits, we're not purchasing, so there's not an exact one-to-one ratio of the kilowatt hours of our energy consumption to what this project offers in capacity too. So this is really gonna basically meet the goal that we had set in our plan for having all of our municipal operations be running on renewable electricity by 2030.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee for Ms. Keefe? No? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And also, likewise, I'd love to ask Mr. Hops to come, you're from the Clean Energy, I'm messing up the name, help me out.
Clean Energy Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
I wanted to speak earlier during the public hearing, but I just wanted to speak in favor of the project and how exciting it is.
Okay.
And the goals that Arena outlined. Thank you.
Did you ever think you would see this moment? I mean, I don't think I realized with this project that we'd be meeting. So we're going to meet all of our energy requirements as a municipality with these solar arrays. Did I understand that correctly? I mean, for municipal buildings.
Yeah, we're coming a lot closer to 100% of our electricity use here.
Okay.
We don't want to go over it. We still have some other projects we're going to want to do, like we have several school roofs to do in the coming years, and hopefully we'll have opportunities there. We also, Kearsarge is our partner for the police station solar work as well, although that, I think the goal there is behind the meter usage on site. Yeah. But I will say that we are getting closer to that mark, and yeah, I mean, please clarify, because Arena works in this all day, every day. So.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand it correctly too, to share out.
Pretty much, and I think, Dan, if you want to get into some of the mechanics around the kilowatt hours, you're welcome to. But we're also working on so much else in terms of reducing our energy consumption too. So the streetlight project, for example, that was a retrofit of all of our streetlights in the city that reduced our streetlight energy by 50%. And we're still getting credited for that. And we have other, projects in place around the city for municipal buildings, at our schools, to cut the overall energy that we consume too. So yes, I think we're
Talk about the fact that we're going to be electrifying more car charging.
We're going to have more demand, certainly. Yeah. So the library is an example of a project where we're targeting the ability to move from a gas-powered or gas heating and cooling to geothermal system. That's going to rely on some more electricity usage in the built facility as well. As we move away from natural gas in new municipal buildings, as we do other retrofits, we're going to be increasing our demand and our load on the electrical grid too. So we're reducing at the same time as we're kind of increasing our consumption too.
That's great. Thank you so much.
And I do want to add, I don't know if Fred got this intro, but Fred was, he was the founder of the Clean Energy Advisory Committee and was part of the Solar Now task force group that's been making sure that the transition of the old panels the historic line of panels from 1981 are going to be part of an exhibit for students to take advantage of. And it will be really important for students to see every single day the clean energy is possible, not just on these kind of big wind farms in Texas, or not just at a tiny scale on your rooftop or around homes in Beverly, but really visible every day. So thank you, Fred, for all your work.
I wanted to respond to your question, did I ever think I'd see this day? And I did. And I wanted to speak about Dr. Coleman, because it's his vision that I got inspired by, and his vision was what's happening now. And that's what's so inspiring, to see the Kearsarge and the mayor and the city is picking up the ball and running with it, because this is what needs to happen across the state and across the country and the world. So it's great to see it happening here in Beverly, and I did expect to see this sooner.
with a lot of your effort too, so thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to address you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rotundo.
Just two quick questions that the solar field is being dismantled, so to speak, the one from the Carter era. But you are keeping a small section of it, if I understood the presentation correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. So at the top of the steps, if you go out there, you got the steps going up the hill.
Yep.
There's a bay of panels there that will keep with the original solar panels.
For historic purposes, I'm assuming?
Yeah, and for continuity. So it's not hooked up, but those panels are still generating kilowatts, and so ideally working with Fred and the team, we'll figure out how to stick that into something so that it continues to be the longest serving solar facility in the country.
And then one other question, Mayor, it's in regards to future projects. And I know you just mentioned the elementary schools, for instance, and I know one of the, just even from a homeowner, when solar panels are even investigated, they have to make sure the roofs need to be solid. So I have to assume that would be partially to do with capital improvements if we're to go forward. If we do capital improvements, say on Centerville School, would be considered putting a solar panel on that, correct?
Right, as you know, we have in the capital plan, we have placeholders for those roofs. And if you think about it, McEwen's the oldest. It opened in 1998, so it's gonna hit 25 years of age next year. Commissioner Collins keeps close tabs on the performance of those roofs, and so they're gonna come due. I think we're looking at doing 2 or 3 of them at a time. And when we do the new roofs, we'll be doing new HVAC systems at those buildings and looking for opportunities for the HVAC to not be fossil fuel powered as well, like we're looking for at the library. So if you look at all that, those would be opportunities, we hope, for rooftop solar as those new roofs get done.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that answer you?
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you. Like I said, I'm assuming you're much smarter than me that you would be coordinating those two projects together.
Call to order Committee of the Whole, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here. And per your recommendation, I would accept a motion to hold order number 88.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, and we'll move on to order number 90.
A and B.
Yeah, so I guess we'll hold, actually, motion to hold 88A and 88B as well.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Order is held. Okay. Order number 90, which is the fortune teller license renewal for Summer Evans at 507 Rantoul Street. I don't believe Miss Evans is here. Questions from the committee?
I guess maybe more generally, thank you, Madam
Yep.
Chair. So what actually is this license regulating?
So in Beverly, and actually, Ms. Dixon might be able to speak to this too. In Beverly, that one of the things that we license, much like a signboard or a kind of retail license, we license fortune telling. So I don't know the origins of that. I'm curious if maybe it's related to our proximity to Salem and that as a popular business and kind of managing that, but I don't know, Ms. Dixon, if you know more about that process.
It's in the ordinances for the city of Beverly, so that's why we do it. I think it might be like a mass general law that cities could choose to accept, thank you. And so Beverly must have at some point chosen to accept that, but it is, the structure that we follow for licensing is in the city ordinances.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just one more quick follow-up question, Madam Chair. There's no, like with lodging house permits, there's multiple departments that need to sign off. There's no departmental sign-off on this one? Okay.
Good questions. Thank you. Councilor Rotundo?
I don't have anything on this license except that, is it a renewal or is it, so it's a renewal, so that's the only question I had. I just wanted to just confirm that. I'm good with the license personally.
Okay. I would accept a motion to approve order number 90.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. And we'll take up order number 91. Order number 91 is the recommendation to change the loading zone time parameters at 110 to 114 Rantoul Street.
I do have a question on this one, just
Sure.
because of past issues with the neighbors And I don't know what your, and I'm assuming it's your ward, you must be well aware of it.
Yeah, this is for people who aren't aware, that's Frank's, kind of the block that Frank's restaurant takes up.
So my concern with that is where we're changing it to a 24 hours, that's a sort of allowing delivery trucks, which is one of the biggest complaints from the condo owners, was delivery trucks coming early in the morning at 6 a.m., whether it's for whether it's for Toscano's, whatever the case, but their perception and their gripe with Frank's was so much delivery trucks coming, and if we're allowing them to do, we're kind of encouraging now a 24-hour loading and unloading zone. So I kind of have issues with that, just with regards to the neighbors.
Good points. Counselor Sweeney, did you have any questions on this?
Yeah, one question, whether this is for you, Ms. Dixon, or for Ms. Williams in the solicitor's office. Was this a request of the specific business of Frank, or was it rather a way to?
So I'm not aware if, sorry, Bethel Nixon from the solicitor's office. I'm not aware if it was a specific request from the business. I do know the Parking and Traffic Commission looked at it and made this recommendation. I believe there was a letter from.
Yeah, they wrote their recommendation.
But I don't know
well.
where their request initiated from.
Okay.
So I have similar questions, and I'd like to maybe hold this so that we can reach out to both the Parking Traffic Commission and constituents and Frank. So,
I agree.
motion to hold order number 91.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is held, and I believe that's all we have on our agenda. Okay, so how about motion to adjourn Committee of the Whole?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. And motion to adjourn Legal Affairs Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.
everyone. Welcome back. So we are at the point in our meeting for reports from committees. So Ms. Kent.
Order number 69, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom was referred the matter regarding transfer for $10,500 from the reserve for union negotiations in the fire department budget to fund costs associated with the recently agreed upon MOA between the City of Beverly and Fire Dispatch Union. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follows. Recommend the council approve the request.
Thank you. The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 9-0.
Order number 70, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom was referred the matter regarding transfer of $113,500 into various municipal department budgets to fund costs associated with recently settled contract between City of Beverly and BMEA. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follows. Recommend the council approve the request.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this one? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 9-0.
Order number 87, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding the recommendation and the acceptance of the easement from Cummings property at 50 Dunham Road. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve the request.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
I'm sorry, to clarify, which order is this again?
87.
Thank you.
The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 9-0.
Order number 90.
And Ms. Kent, I wanted to say thank you very much for your patience for being here. And it was
Actually, it was a very interesting meeting, and I enjoyed it, so thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your spending the whole evening with us. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kent.
Order number 90, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding the fortune teller license for the renewal for Summer Evans, 507 Rantoul Street. Recommend the license be granted.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 9-0. I feel like this is where I have to make the requisite joke that Miss Evans already knew that, but congratulations, Miss Evans.
That is all I have. Everything else is being held in committee.
All right. Thank you. That brings us to the closing of this meeting. Thank you, everybody. I know this was a long one, a lot to cover. I wanted to remind not only us, but anyone who might be watching on BevCam, that we have our joint meeting with the school committee. That's this Wednesday evening at 7:30 p.m. and that's happening at the Beverly Middle School auditorium. So if you've been to this before, don't go to the library, go to the auditorium, please. And we will be having that meeting following their finance and facilities meeting. So that's why it's a 7:30 start. So they have a meeting that's stacked before it. I also wanted to mention that our assistant city clerk, Miss Dixon, had a birthday last week, March 16th. Happy birthday, Miss Dixon.
Happy birthday.
And our city clerk, Miss Kent, has a birthday coming up on March 27th. So happy birthday to Miss Kent as well.
My birthday is today.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
I love working.
Anybody watching who couldn't tell, that was Kim from BevCam. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday to Kim.
And Council President's birthday was on St. Patrick's Day.
Also true.
Yes.
Lots of March birthdays. Yeah. Any other announcements or reminders from members of Councilor Houseman?
Yes, Council President. Finance and Property will meet next week, Monday, the 28th at 6 p.m. in Conference Room A regarding order number 60, I believe it is. This is an opportunity for councilors, for the council as a whole, to discuss the upcoming formation of the budget and talk about any priorities that the council members individually or collectively we might have that we want to press, organize around trying to ask the administration to support. It's a timely meeting because the budget is really sort of already, sort of underway, the budget forming process on the administration side. So this is the time for the council to, especially the newer councilors, get an opportunity to sort of organize around how we can have an impact on that process if we so choose. So that is 6 p.m. Next Monday, Conference Room A, which will be followed by, at 7:30, I believe, the Bass River Overlay presentation. Is that correct, Council President?
For the Ward 2 Civic Association, Councilor Rand, is that correct?
Correct, yes. And then, yeah, I have something as well.
Councilor Rand.
Thank you. Legal Affairs Committee will also be meeting on March 28th at 6 p.m. And the main topic of discussion will be the charter review.
Thank you.
Which room?
Council Chamber?
They're gonna
Council
duke it out.
Chambers?
Thank you.
If I may, Council President?
You may.
Councilor Rand, do you have a sort of sense around how long you're likely to want to have legal affairs discuss the charter at your meeting?
Well, through you, Madam President, to Councilor Houseman, I think, knowing that there's a 7:30 meeting starting here, we'll plan on ending no later than 7:15. We could end earlier if our discussions are done.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes, Councilor Bowen.
I know it's announcement time, but Councilor Rand, do you know if that committee meeting will be cross-posted with the Charter Review Committee so that members of the Charter Review Committee can attend?
So, again, Madam President, through you, the plan right now, I guess, for the process in reviewing the charter committee's findings is to meet on Monday, March 28th, and then there will be a public hearing on April 4th, and then Legal Affairs will meet again on April 11th, and then, if necessary, April 25th, to just sort of complete the whole process. And I think, so we've, working with Mr. Perry, we've talked about having the Collins Center come back in, presence from the Solicitor's Office, and then also presence from the Charter Review Commission as sort of needed. I don't anticipate in cross-posting that for the 28th, only because it's sort of, I don't know, kind of a full night, and I think it will be our first time that Legal Affairs is getting together to discuss the findings and our process going forward, but I think on consequent meetings, either the 11th or the 25th of April, we could have the Charter Commission come join us. So this won't be the only opportunity for discussion. Is that helpful? Yeah, okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that any member of the Charter Review Committee could still attend that meeting. It just wouldn't be an official meeting of the Charter Review Committee, similar to when we all attended the Bass River Overlay. So certainly anyone could come. Councilor Rand is.
They just wouldn't be able to answer questions.
Unless Councilor Rand asked someone directly as the chair.
It's here? Oh. I didn't realize the Ward 2 Civic Association meeting was here. That's all.
The Ward 2 Civic Association will be right here in Council Chambers. That is correct.
Was moved.
Lots of hands on this side. Councilor Sweeney, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam President. Building off of Councilor Bowen's comment about the Charter Committee being invited to one of the Legal Affairs Subcommittee meetings, I know I had discussed with yourself and Councilor Rand about potentially inviting members of the school committee, given the relevant provision that would expand the size of the school committee. Just to clarify, the plan would be that they would be invited at one of the later meetings of the Legal Affairs Subcommittee and not the meeting on the 28th, and that otherwise we would not plan to formally invite, obviously it's an open meeting, anyone can attend, but not formally invite any other relevant stakeholders like the Charter Commission or the school committee to that meeting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rand, and thank you, Councilor Sweeney. We'll just work this way down the line. Councilor Houseman.
So, Council President, it's been 2 years since we've met in person like this. And so we're all still kind of getting used to, and the new councilors are learning our processes of how council has conducted itself in the past. We have an unusually heavy agenda of big items on our calendar. And in the past, subcommittees have staggered when they met so that any given subcommittee meeting, the full council would be able to attend. Let's say all 3 subcommittees met the same night. They would be all councilors would be able to attend all of the subcommittee meetings rather than overlapping. So to the degree that we can as a council, given these big items that we're all trying to process, to the degree we can still try to coordinate to do that, I think it would be beneficial for the council. I know that at least the meeting that I just talked about for finance and property, it is my hope that it may be not the only meeting that the council would have to talk about that, but certainly it would be most beneficial if the entire council, in fact, it doesn't really work if the entire council is not able to attend that. So I understand we have these conflicting large items that council needs to move through in its business, but I hope we can figure out a way to try to stagger and coordinate our subcommittee meetings so that we're not overlapping that way, because I certainly would want to attend the Charter Commission subcommittee meeting that Legal Affairs is going to be holding at exactly the same time as the Finance and Property subcommittee meeting. So I just sort of put that out there for us to try to aspire to, I guess.
Thank you. And I do seem to recall sometimes when meetings did have to run concurrently in the past, but I hear your concern. So I think the best thing, I don't know that we're going to resolve this right here and now, but perhaps if Councillor Rand and Houseman could work with Ms. Dixon. Councillor Rand, and I know I see you, Councillor St. Hilaire. Let me go to Councillor Rand in this back and forth.
Thank you.
And then we'll return to this end of the
Through you,
table.
Madam President, to Councillor Houseman, would you like to stagger our meetings so you could have a 6:30 start time, so there'd be a little overlap? That way, since you're in a room that's not going to be full of people close to the end of your meeting, you could wrap up there and then join us.
Yeah, through the council president, if I may. Yeah, no, I think you're right that it's certainly in the past we've had overlapping subcommittee meetings, but typically they're for relatively routine matters, not really large matters like, charter review or the budget. So, but to Councillor Rand's question, if we could stagger that, I think that would be helpful. You're still planning on going for an hour and a half, though, on your subcommittee meeting for charter?
Councillor Rand.
Thank you. Well, there's a meeting in here that starts at 7:30, so.
Well, you're starting at 6, right?
Correct.
And you're planning on going the entire time until 7:30?
Not up to 7:30, because people will be setting up for the meeting in here at 7:30.
Oh, I'm sorry, I see, because you're meeting in here.
7:15 at the latest.
Yeah. I'm just trying to optimize an opportunity for councilors to have an opportunity to attend both meetings at the same evening, that's all. It doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It might make the most sense maybe for this just conversation to wrap up maybe between subcommittee chairs with Ms. Dixon as clerk of committees.
Yep, we can work out of session and try to iron out any scheduling issues at this point.
Yeah, and then get that information to councilors, and that will be great.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor St. Hilaire, is your comments still?
Yeah, just real quick, I would just echo the comments. I think these are both really important topics, and I would love an opportunity for the full council to participate in both discussions. So if we could have standalone meetings, that would be my request to the chairs.
Thank you very much, Councillor St. Hilaire. Any other comments, questions, announcements, concerns, joys? I will just close by saying a reminder, especially for those who may still be watching, our next regular council meeting, so we've just been discussing subcommittee meetings, for people who may not be as familiar, but our next regular council meeting like this will happen on April 4th. Among other things, we do have 3 public hearings scheduled for that meeting as well. There's public hearing on the CPC funding, community preservation funding, on the charter, an initial beginning of that hearing. I don't think that members of the public need to consider the charter issue closed on the 4th, as we just heard Councilor Rand talk about that hoped-for schedule for legal affairs to spend April working on that. And then we'll continue the hearing that we began on the National Grid project this evening. With that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you. I know we're adjourned. This is not really a business item. Leave your name tags out so Ms. Kent can bring them for the meeting on Wednesday, please. We're adjourned.
It's gonna be another one.